Alright then, good evening ladies and gents, and welcome back to the NLRL Console Endurance Series, live here on TRTN. As we enter the third round of the championship, reeling from the dramatic final battle in the pouring rain of Suzuka back in round 2, that saw both masterclass and controversy, when three of our big teams, namely the ones on screen, were one of the three pairings in that XCL went head to head with NLR and MSA for that final lap battle we saw all the way back in Suzuka. It was a brilliant one to start the month off. As we come towards the end of the opening month of 2025, then we come into round 3. Ultimately, in that battle in Suzuka, it was MSA that took the gold and now lead the championship and have quite a long way to go before the end of this championship, at least. After a very nail-biting final lap, saw XCL throw everything at the wall to stay ahead, I should say. That's my mistake. To stay ahead. I, of course, am Regan Clark, and you join me then from a very sunny Barcelona here in Catalonia for the third round of the championship. We ditched the soak of Suzuka for brightness here in Barcelona. The Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya is one among many popular venues for motorsport here in Spain. Other venues like Valencia and Jerez are great examples of such. However, here we're at the home of the Spanish Grand Prix, at least so up until 2026. Barcelona is a grand mixture of straights and winding corners alike. Designed for Grand Prix racing, its 2.9 miles and 16 turns of widely stretched FIO Grade 1 will present ample opportunities for side-by-side action today. In a circuit that divides the masses on opinion, one of the quintessential examples of a Marmite track. You either love it or hate it. And as we just see here with Gianluca Zamponi, with exclusive coming into the pit lane, we'll go back on board one of the other exclusive cars here, Elmas Mikkelsen's in the 788, as we get on to the rest of free practice. Before we continue, however, we would like to pass on a word from one of the new sponsors of NLRL. Today's coverage of the NLRL Console Endurance Series is sponsored by Malwa Transport Incorporated. Specialising in heavy haulage, oversized cargo and heavy equipment transportation, Malwa Transport has over 30 years' experience in the Canadian trucking and logistics industry and is a trusted and respected name in the province of Quebec. Are you or someone you know located in Canada and are looking for an efficient, professional transportation brokerage service at an affordable rate for your business? Visit their website at www.malwatransport.ca. That's www.malois-transport.ca. So then we'll stay on board with Elmas Mikkelsen as we quickly move on to the championship standings. Leading the fray then after the second round in Suzuka is the MSA 414. Joint second then, one of two cars on screen. At the moment, the XCL 788 and its sister car, the 787, both with 83 points in the championship. In fourth position is the K1 number 1 car with 68 points. That's of Martijn van Manen and Toby Cyril, who had a grand run in Suzuka last race time. In fifth position is the MSA 416 with 63 points ahead of the ETE number 696 with only 61 points. Not a wide margin there to compete with at all. The NLR number 5, former championship leader out of round 1, is now sat down in a dismal 7th with 58 points. Ahead of the ETE 315 with 55 points, the XCL 789 with 53 points, and rounding out that top 10 is the MSA number 415 with 51 points to their name here in the top 10 of the championship. You have a look around here. Elmas Mikkelsen's just making their way now in through the first sector, down through Repsol corner here at turn 4. It's a parabolic open hairpin right. Plenty of opportunities for side-by-side action here in the opening sector of the track. Now heading down to Lacaille, the old version of Lacaille as well. Very, very sharp hairpin left here. One of the heaviest of our braking zones here at the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Mikkelsen's on for a valid flying lap here towards the end of free practice. Bear in mind, just 4.5 minutes left to go before we get on to qualifying. And down into the RACC chicane. So if we can stay on board then with Mikkelson's, we'll see if we can get a full comprehensive run then of all 2.9 miles and 16 turns of FIA Grade 1 that comprise the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya. Starting us off then, one of the longest opening straights for a European track, taking us down into turn 1 and 2. Elfin Renault corner, no doubt named after the ever-popular Renault R25 and R26 of Spanish driver Fernando Alonso in his two-time championship run in the mid-2000s. Now as we head up round turn 3 towards turn 4, which we saw before as we were reading out our championship standings there, Mikkelson's now diving into Repsol corner, named after the Spanish petrol company of the same name. Heading down into Seat corner, of course named after Seat, I believe, if you pardon my terrible Spanish, the Sociedad de... I completely forget the name. I'll look it up later. But yes, it's one of the largest manufacturers of cars in Spain, or at least was until it closed down a few years back. Here it is, the Sociedad Española de Automóviles de Turismo. That's what SEAT stands for. So heading now down into La Caja there, turn 10. Around the Banc de Sabadell, turn 12, down into the RACC chicane then. This was the most recent part of the track to be phased out, as a matter of fact. The Grand Prix configuration of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya no longer uses this chicane. It actually goes in the same vein as the MotoGP layout. Now heading down to the line there for the fourth fastest time in free practice, Elmas Mikkelson's with a 1:44.535. Whilst we have time here before the end of free practice, let's discuss some of the news in the world of motorsports today as we scroll around the paddock here and try and pick up on some of the other performances of today. So let's see if we can catch on board here. Martijn van Manen in the number 1 Mustang with K1 Esports, as we'll discuss the news now. And starting us off in the world of the World Rally Championship, which of course kicked off its Monte Carlo rally on Friday this week. Sébastien Ogier and Toyota Gazoo Racing lead going into Sunday ahead of teammate Elfyn Evans. And on a first drive with Hyundai, the Maverick drive of Adrian Formo, who sits in P3 at the time of recording. He swapped positions with Evans a few times over the course of the second leg today on Saturday. It has been, bar none, a fantastic drive out of the Frenchman on his first season with Hyundai. For Evans, he's in for the championship fight, and for Ogier, he's eyeing up a 10th win at Monte Carlo, record-shattering stuff from the 8-time World Rally Champion. Elsewhere in the World Rally Championship, Gregoire Munster with Ford M Sport and teammate Louis Luca secure their first stage win in Rally 1 here in the Monte Carlo Rally. They managed to kick that off in the early half of today's second leg. And that was grand stuff out of the Luxembourgish driver. Long awaited here, second season in with Ford M Sport. And his seat was at risk towards the end of 2024, but he's massively regained some of that confidence lost over the course of last season. He's been able to learn from some of the mistakes he's made and is really rolling with the punches this time around, having secured those small victories. That's going to help build his confidence up going into the second round of that championship, which is Rally Sweden in February. Kicking off the last bit of our news then in the world of motorsports is one that is incredibly imminent right now. Not a lot of time left to report on this one. BMW on GTP pole for the upcoming Daytona 24 Hours, which at the time of recording kicks off in 20 minutes time. And that's the BMW of Marciello, Van Thor, Magnussen and Eng. They have had a brilliant run through qualifying. This not only marks such a massive victory for the team, it also marks a massive turn of fate for BMW after dismal results on debut. Now, as we head into the 2025 IMSA Sports Car Championship season, things are looking massively up for BMW M Sport. So then, we'll stay with Van Manen here just as we exit qualifying. As he's getting down to the RACC chicane, we'll have a little look at the timing charts here. Tyler Vermaak fastest with ETE. Benjamin Hoopert second fastest with MSA. Jörg Masserat with NRW Performance, one of our privateer teams, third fastest. Can Van Manen get a podium here at the end of free practice? We see some of the practice starts taking place. Sadly, not this time round for Van Manen and teammate Toby Cyril. We'll get on to qualifying though, and we've got quite a juicy qualifying prediction on our hands here for round 3 of the championship. Of course, not dealing with anywhere near the imminent threat of inclement weather we saw back in Japan. It's going to be bright sunny conditions here in Barcelona. Looking at the temperatures at the moment, it is getting a bit hot, let's put it bluntly. 28 degrees ambient, but 35 degrees on track. What does that mean for the Pirellis? It means when they start falling off, it is a very sudden drop in performance. Where in the colder climates, you can definitely see the inklings of tyre degradation start to take foot, and it's a slow build into where they decide to throw the towel in and swap for new tyres. Here, it's going to be, you're going from 100% efficiency to nil in the blisteringly hot weather here in Barcelona. This isn't even the hottest the track can get, mind you. It can get hotter than this, but as we kick off qualifying, what a lively start that was. I think that was Hupert, Van Manen, two of the exclusive cars jumping out behind him as well. Zambi driver Elmas Mikkelsen's also behind them there. Jussi Virolainen in a team we're yet to discuss today. The Northern Lights Racing team will have a moment on them over the course of qualifying. But kicking things off then, let's watch on board the leading car. This pack, as you can see, it is a very, very busy pit lane here at the start of quali. So we'll go on board the leading car then, and what will be, if he can set a valid lap, the first car to lay a time down on the table here. Benjamin Hupert and teammate Matteo Mastromaro in the MSA 416 McLaren. So for qualifying predictions today, NLR predicted for yet another pole position. Andre Damrat putting in a time of 1:43.570. That's 3/10 faster than the next car behind, which is predicted to be the K1 number 113 car. Giovanni Badiali setting a 1:43.845. According to Simbot data here. That is going to be very, very interesting if they can replicate that time. That'll be the furthest start up the order K1's had all season, and it'll be a much needed morale booster for the American team after a recent refurbishment job. Their new logo, new appearance and all. ETE predicted for third at the moment. The 696 of Ian Skeen and new teammate Hayden Puttock swapping in for Aaron Williams, who's took a sabbatical over the course of this round, did a 1:43.965. That could put them up on that second row ahead of the XCL number 788. Nat Bennett, the new driver, alongside Elmas Mikkelsen's, set a 1:44.082. So just the first in of the 44s there, the top three, the only so far to be breaking into the 43 barrier. And that's good enough for fourth for the moment. Ahead of the sister car, the number 5, the NLR number 6 of Kelvin Castens, with a predicted 1:44.140. We can see there Hooper crossing the line to kick off a flying lap here. So we'll keep our timing charts up on the left here, staying on board with Hooper. Reading down through the rest of the order then, the number 314 ETE car of Tyler Vermack is predicted for 6th position there, 1:44.245. The MSA 416 of Matteo Mastromaro and teammate Benjamin Hupert, it predicted for, at minimum, 7th position, a 1:44.373 by Mastromaro in earlier testing. Tempest number 30 and NRW 777 are the only two privateers to make their way into the top 10 predictions. The Tempest of Brendan Roos with a 1:44.542. The NRW of Sebastian Turner with a 1:44.667. Rounding out our top 10 predictions then, the 787 of Zambi driver with a 44.877. So interesting stuff indeed here coming into qualifying. For those of you asking in chat as well, if we have a Discord, we do, but it's mostly used to post announcements of our latest live streams. There's not really an awful lot going on in that Discord anymore. It is mostly just a notifications channel. We will link it in the chat if needs be. Otherwise, we can contact you after the race and let you know about what's going on with that. Right now, we'll stay on board as we come down to the final corners here through the Banc de Sabadell, turn 12 there, down into the RACC chicane. Goes Benjamin Hupert. What time will he set here? And you can see it is quite an ensemble of vehicles at his tail heading down to the start-finish line here. It's going to be very hard to report all of it at once. That's what we've got the timing charts up for here on the left-hand side. Getting down to the line then, is it going to be a valid lap in of 44.390 by Hupert? We'll see what the times rank up against him. Van Manen's across the line 3/10 slower. Zambi driver crosses the line, invalid. Elmas Mikkelsen's goes up to the fastest time of 44.088. Jussi Virolainen crossing the line for the third fastest time. Levi Warner with the 5th fastest time. That's down to 6th though, as heading up to 4th there, Craig Twardock in the 414 MSA Ferrari. Next toward the line, believe at the time there was Jürgen Masserat and Harrison Greenhalgh. That's 8th and 9th. They're down to 9th from 10th. Bass PW setting the 8th fastest time there. 2 seconds off of pole position. So it's been a rough start for quite a few there. Chris Davies in the 3:15 MSA car goes 11th fastest. That's down to 12th as Ben Woodgate crosses the line for the 8th fastest. Now 9th fastest time. Jan Bedentrup crossing for 7th. So very, very quick stuff. He's down to 8th, though. Looking up towards the front, Parker Sukup only 500ths away from pole position against Elmas Mikkelsen. So Exclusive sending an early message here in qualifying of their intent for that lockout. But that's going to be a long way coming because Adam Saunders in the number 30 Tempest car takes pole by half a second here in the opening of qualifying. Bear in mind, we still have 15 minutes of qualifying left on our hands here, but already there is quite a lot to discuss. Privateers doing battle with the officials. That is something to behold. Absolutely. See down the line as well. Bensei Kiss crossing the line there for the 13th fastest time. The solitary Porsche in this championship there with the Paul Ralph team. The number 711 alongside Martin Pesty. See further up the line at the moment, however. Benjamin Hooper crossing the line there and going up to second. So what can Mikkelsen's do? Virolainen right on his tail. Can Mikkelsen's claim pole? No, he can't, not on this lap. What can Virolainen do? Crosses the line for 7th. So something just to quickly discuss with Virolainen. One of the newest sort of kids on the block, as it were. His team, the Northern Lights Racing team, saw him split away from MSA, now joined by David Beam in the number 71 McLaren. Whether or not he meant to or not, accidentally imitating the colours of the Jamaican flag as opposed to the Northern Lights there, but nonetheless a brand new privateer team on the grid and currently at the back of that top 10. Milo Bergman goes 3rd fastest in the number 5. Of course, him and Andre Damrat are predicted for pole position, so they've got a long way coming for this one. Craig Twardock goes 8 thousandths of a second off of pole position there. Adam Saunders heading down to the line. Will it be an improvement by Tempest Motorsports? The number 30 of Saunders and Roos crossing the line. Sadly, not an improvement on this lap. Trying to catch up here with the next driver to head to the line. I believe we're looking at the number 711 car. That will be of the Paul Ralph team. Looking for Bensic Kiss. Heading down to the line there in the Porsche. The number 696 car right behind him. That's Ian Skeen in the Aston Martin. Looking to set their first times. Goes from 24th to 20th there. 2.2 seconds off the beat. And early runnings there. 4:16 next to the line. That's Benjamin Hupert. Can he challenge for pole position at the moment? Getting towards the line. He knows that Craig Twardock had the move in there to get close to that front row by 8 thousandths of a second. Next to the line is the number 788. Elmas Mikkelsen's right behind him there. Jussi Virolainen. Mikkelsen's goes up to 3rd. Virolainen to 4th. So things starting to heat up here. Virolainen's following the line of Mikkelsen's and he's gaining position for it every single lap going. But he's relegated down to 5th. Milo Bergman crossing the line for 4th position. We see Matthew Williams with Fats GT just goes 11th fastest there. Only 500ths of a second. Actually 400ths and 5 thousandths precisely from 10th position. That being held at the moment by XCL's Zambi driver in the 787. So things getting very, very interesting in the moment. I think the most interesting dichotomy is that of the front row. Adam Saunders and Craig Twardock, 2 British drivers, separated by 8 thousandths of a second here. Bear in mind, still 11 minutes, 11 and a half actually, left to go before the end of qualifying, before we get onto the start of round 3. Saunders still looking to extend that lead of 43.557 now. If we want to cue that up against our qualifying predictions, 43.557 is actually faster than the predicted times out of the likes of Andre Damrat in the NLR number 5. So above and beyond stuff by Tempest Motorsports. Perhaps a little bit of sandbagging there in the data shown by Roos and Saunders, because this is a completely different Tempest experience to the one we've seen in the last 2 rounds. That's not a discredit to their performance. We see James Mason crossing the line for a 1:45.864 as we try and find on board here our current pole sitters, as we see David Urban crossing the line there in the 666 Hungary car, sporting the same colours as the pole sitting M Sport in Daytona. And let's see if we can just about catch on board here with... Whereabouts is he? He's hiding around here somewhere. Here he is. Adam Saunders in the number 30, our current pole sitter. Fastest lap there, an eye-watering 1:43.557. Looking around the field, Parker Sukup on that last lap put himself within a tenth there, 700ths and 8 thousandths of a second from pole position. Things really starting to liven up here as we get onto the second half of qualifying. Elmas Mikkelsen's is getting closer as well, but extending the lead where we thought it couldn't have been any faster. Adam Saunders does a 1:43.280. This is brilliant stuff. What can Craig Twardock do then as he crosses the line? Sadly, not enough, I think, for position. Next car towards the line to set a time at the moment, the number 696 Ian Skeen in the Aston Martin, joined by new teammate Hayden Puttock. Skeen from 17th goes 16th there ahead of fellow Aston Martin Levi Warner in the number 23 Fats GT Aston. Looking back up towards that front row, we want to try and see where our next times are coming from. The next car to go towards the line at the moment is the 1-2-3. That's with Fats GT at the moment. That's Matthew Williams in the 1-2-3 car. So that Ferrari, you can see Bass PW right behind him there. It was a massive shake-up for the Fats GT Esports lineup coming into this round. They're not the only team to have done that, of course. XCL also shared in the move of swapping quite a few drivers around to sort of custom tailor their lineup for this round. Matthew Williams now in at the 1-2-3 car. Goes across the line at the moment, though. It is still 11th position. Parker Sukup crosses the line to start another lap there. You can see running in parallel on the exit of the pit lane for his final stint of qualifying is our current pole sitter in the privateer car, the Tempest number 30 of Adam Saunders and teammate Brendan Roos. This is show-stopping stuff. I was not expecting at this point in the championship for privateers to not only lay such a claim, but also send such a message. We saw in the qualifying predictions that, yes, they were expected a top 10. They weren't expected pole. And we thought it was going to be, maybe business as usual. NLR was going to take that immediate pole position. But that number 5, of which we're expecting those times out of, at least in the hands of Milo Bergman, he's yet to swap over for teammate Andre Damrat. But at the moment, they're really starting to struggle. NLR have been on the back foot since the end of Suzuka. It was a controversial incident that went on there. It was sort of a mixture of all kinds of stuff. We don't want to get involved. A bit of a can of worms, really. But you saw it for yourselves, and as too did we in those final laps of Suzuka. But them finishing down in 14th after winning in round 1 has really put a hamper on their championship hopes at the moment. They're down in 7th in the championship from where they were in a very dominant position going into round 2. It's going to be redemption day then on the minds of the number 5 drivers of Milo Bergman and Andre Damrat, and it's going to be a long, long way to go here. 3 hours of racing today, and then towards the middle of next month is going to be one of the 2 largest events on the calendar, 6 hours at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for round 4 of the championship. Hopefully we'll be about to cover that when the time comes. We are thoroughly looking forward to see where this championship develops, as it's been plenty of drama, plenty of controversy, but also plenty of good racing stories to tell. We see at the moment Mikkelsen and Twardock, 3rd and 4th, very close to each other on track. Twardock heading down to the lines very soon to set another time. I think further ahead of them is the 4:16, so that's Benjamin Huppert ahead of him there, David Urban. But this is for valid laps. Huppert next to the line then in the 4:16 car, joined by Mastro Mauro. They are predicted for very good results here in qualifying. Can they deliver on this lap? Getting to the line from 8th position up to 7th, ahead of Jörg Masserat. So we'll try and catch on board then. Twardock to the line, still 3rd. Mikkelsen's across the line then, still in 4th position. Stalemate here in the top 5. No one seems to be able to get very close to Adam Saunders' dominant 1:43.280. Next to the line, the number 1 car of Van Manen and Cyril. Crossing the line there. See what time they put in If we can locate them. Which we are having a surprisingly hard time of doing. For whatever reason, that is very strange. Here, as it still claims they're in the 112 car. You can see there the number 1 adorning the Mustang. Of course, champions in XEC. That's why K1 lays claim to the number 1. Coming into the Console Endurance Series, its spiritual successor. Next to the line at the moment is the 223 car. That's Bass PW with Fatch GT heading down to the line from 19th position there as we come to the end of qualifying runs for the Fatch GT team. 5 minutes left to go, however, in the session, but it looks like a fairly contempt result for Bass PW. There'll be a lot to work for Fatch GT if they're throwing the towel in this early. But, of course, they've got 4 cars invested in the championship thus far. They've got plenty of opportunities to pick up good results here. And with a wide open track like this, do not think for but a moment we're going to have clean race starts. We would all like to hope so. In an ideal world, you definitely get that. But you're looking north here of 20 cars. We're just under 25 cars in attendance for round 3 in the championship. And these are quite competitive drivers. They like to get very eager here. All of them, of course, know the drill when it comes to an endurance race. It's a sprint. It's a marathon, not a sprint, I should say. But a lot of these drivers are nonetheless going to get very, very eager, especially down into turn 1 and 2. Despite how wide the entry of the corner is, it tightens up incredibly quickly. Elf and Renault corner are not to be trifled with at all. Milo Bergman then to the line. Needs to find half a second for pole position. Crosses the line, is still in 5th position. Craig Twardock exiting the pit lane then for his final runs of qualifying. The 3:15 of Chris Davies just crossed the line there for 14th position with Euro Titans Endurance. Next to the line is the 787, the exclusive car of Zambi driver. Currently down in 11th. Will it be an improvement then for the 787 as they cross the line? Yes, it is. Up to 8th position then for Zambi driver and Gianluca Zamponi. The all-Italian lineup then, and one of 2 all-new lineups at XCL. I think they're actually alongside one of them there. No, that's Elmas Mikkelsen. So the other new lineup is that of the 788, currently 789, I should say. The All-American lineup of Parker Sukup and Chris Farish in the 789 car. 3 McLarens, though, so manufacturer's choice clearly hasn't changed for XCL. Their priorities firmly set on what has been one of the most competitive cars in GT history, the McLaren 720S Evo. As we can see, it is a 1-2-3 for McLaren at this time. For Saunders, the world is on his shoulders here, as too is it for his teammate Brendan Roos to deliver on what has been a spectacular qualifying. Can they take it all the way to the checkered flag then for what is going to look like to be their first pole position, and quite a remarkable lunge forward for performance out of the Tempest Motorsport team. They've been in and around those top 10s for a while in qualifying. Never before have they had such unparalleled performance. They're sitting in a very comfortable 2/10 gap from the likes of Exclusive and from MSA, who are closer to each other than they can possibly be at this time to Saunders. We'll see, though, what Craig Twardock has to say about that in the 414, heading down to the line then. Of course, it was, I believe, this car that won back in Suzuka with the NLR number 5 winning in Imola. We'll see if we have a third and brand new race winner for this round, or if it's going to be back to business as usual. Right now, though, it's looking very, very tidy towards the end of qualifying. Across the line he went, and Craig Twardock, I think, is now just starting off his final flying laps. We did see him exit the pit some while back. We were uncertain then as to whether or not he was still in the bookings for times. The 413 crosses the line. I think that's the 413 there. The 813, I make my mistake there. The ETE Academy car crossing the line. Harrison Greenhalgh in the BMW is in 22nd position. The 777 of Jörg Masserat and Sebastian Turner cross the line next, and they're currently in 7th position. Bear in mind, we're now just a minute and a half left in qualifying, so we're on amongst our final laps of quali today before we get on to round 3. 3 hours of racing here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya for round 3 of the NLRL Console Endurance Series. It has been so far so good in what has been a very interesting championship to study here. From here in the commentary box, I imagine it's been absolute warfare out there on the field of racing for a lot of these drivers involved. And I think it's no doubt they're in for another experience like that today, albeit without the caveat of that inclement weather on the horizon. We're not going to be dealing with any rainfall, so I'm told today it's going to be nice, dry and hot here in Spain. Just how the drivers would prefer it after such a wet and wild last round. Bergman crossing the line then, throwing in the towel. That's the NLR number 5, relegated to a 5th place start. We just see here with Twadok at the end of his flying lap. Can he challenge for pole position? Bear in mind, not a lot of margin in it for that front row, let alone for pole position. Only 0.2 of a second necessary for it as he crosses the line. He's got one more lap left in it. Didn't get position on this one. Could get it on the next. We'll catch up with him later down the line. Mikkelson's to the line next in the 788. Behind him there is, I believe, Parker Sukup. Both of them going across the line, but neither of them being able to challenge Adam Saunders. So it's all down to the line here. A Mexican standoff at the end of qualifying. Adam Saunders gets to the line. It's not an improvement on this lap, but he's got quite the message to send here. 1:43.280. That's the time to beat for all of these drivers here inside that top 4, all within a hair's width of one another here. About 0.03 of a second. So barely enough time to react is the difference in these times from 2nd, 3rd and 4th. All 3 of them looking to lay claim to pole position. We just see here the number, I think that's the 696 car, is also in the final laps of running here. The number 296, I believe, is heading to the line next. That's Kyle Stephen Redman in the False Group Esports car. 20th position then at the end of qualifying. Next to the line is Nick Mashk in the number 45 Spontaneous Racing BMW. He's joined by Mickey Skoros in this round. Getting from the line from 21st position, crossing the line there, stays 21st. The number 123 car is next to the line then, and that's Matthew Williams. Down to the line from 13th position, is going to stay there. So let's go on board with this climactic final battle. 3 cars could possibly take pole position off of Adam Saunders here. And here's the first of them into the fray. The 414 MSA to the line here of Craig Twadok. Getting to the line is 2nd fastest. Elmas Mikkelsen is quickly catching up here. So let's just see what the exclusive duo can do. The 788 there being towed across the line by Zambi driver. They get to the line. Mikkelsen's, can he find extra position? No, he can't. But can Sukup as he gets to the line here? No, he can't. So Craig Twadok takes that front row. But Adam Saunders on pole position for round 3. Incredible stuff by Tempest Motorsports. Quite the message to send here. Here we are. We may not need many cars, but we can fight you here and today. What a brilliant performance already by Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos. The number 30 on pole position. We'll get a full rundown then of the grid before the formation lap here in Barcelona. And what a grid it is. Just tucked under the signs there of the grandstand and lights here at Barcelona is Adam Saunders in that bright purple and white McLaren 720S. Tempest Motorsports on pole position. MSA's Marcus Carlos and Craig Twadok alongside the teammate in the number 414 of David Silf start on that front row. They're in second ahead of both of the fastest available cars in the exclusive lineup. The 789 of Sukup and the 788 of Mikkelsen's in third and fourth. A full second row lockout then for exclusive ahead of the former championship leaders Andre Damrat and Milo Bergman in the NLR number 5. Jussi Virolainen on his first race with the Northern Lights team after splitting off from MSA puts himself on the 6th fastest time of qualifying. He'll be starting alongside Damrat, and on that road right behind him then another privateer, Jörg Masserat and Sebastian Turner alongside Benjamin Hupert in the number 416. He's joined by Matteo Mastromauro in the MSA 416 car. Gianluca Zamponi and Zambi driver on the all-new, all-Italian lineup at the 787 start from 9th position alongside, and one of the best starts they've had so far, the ACC Hungary team of David Urban and Gabor Ochner and Tomas Perger. Martin van Manen then in the number 1 Mustang with K1 Esports starts 11th ahead of Tyler Vermack in the 314. He's got Alan Alexander as a teammate here in Barcelona. Matthew Williams in the 123 starting 13th ahead of Chris Davies. Kelvin Castens in the number 6 NLR starts ahead of Ian Skeen in 16th position. Levi Warner and Ben Woodgate 17th and 18th. Rounding out our top 20 is Bass PW and Kyle Stephen Redman. Nick Mask starts from 21st ahead of Harrison Greenhalgh, and Martin Pesty and Ben Cheeseman round out our 24 positions here. What a qualifying session it has been so far. We're about 3 minutes away, so we'll just leave you with a view of our front row there, just concealed under the lights here in Barcelona for just a moment's time. We'll be back in a few seconds. Just another reminder then, with just under 2 minutes left to go, that this event today is brought to you and sponsored by Maloir Transport Incorporated, trucking and logistics specialists of Quebec. Their website is available at www.maloir-transport.ca. So with just under 2 minutes left to go, we've had that full rundown of the grid. 24 cars it dropped down to, so we were just shy of 25 then for the final grid here of round 3. And things are looking very, very interesting on that front row. It's the first time then that NLR has not qualified on pole position. They took a lightning pole in Imola. They took a surprise pole in Suzuka. Right now, though, they're down in 5th. So a long way from home from the former championship leaders, and with a lot of time left to make up that lead of the championship. If we get a full run down again, they're down in 7th. The MSA 414, riding on the highs of their success in Suzuka, they lead the championship by 3 points to both of the XCL cars, biting at their heels there. Actually, the 788 and 787. The 789 has had a remarkable comeback today. The 787 can't say the same for, but K1 are in 4th and hunting them down as well. So we've got that 30-second warning. We'll get on board with Adam Saunders, who takes us away here from pole position. For our formation lap, you can see the NLR number 5, 58 points. They've only got 3 points to make up if they want to overtake the ETE in front of them. At the same time, there's only 3 points between themselves and the ETE behind them. So a very precarious position from what was otherwise a very confident start to the championship. Still plenty left to go there. If you look at the championship, and you look at the calendar for the championship, no less, we take a look at the calendar for the endurance race. Of course, we've got still 5 more rounds: Spa, Bathurst, Watkins Glen, Kyalami and the Nordschleife, which will kick off the end of the championship in May. So still looking at it at the moment, 4 more months and 5 more races for them to make up some of that lost time. But taking us away then, the start of formation, Tempest Motorsports number 30, Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos. It has been nothing short of a lightning qualifying out of the privateer firm. Down to half their numbers. They dropped off Conor Letford and I believe it was Zolt Beefgartner, the Briton, the Hungarian driver for this round. They've shed half the weight of the drivers then. 2 drivers in all for this round. They'll be covering on average about an hour and a half each worth of racing. That's just the average estimate. Of course, these teams, especially when they have 2 driver lineups, like to mix and match really what their drivers end up doing. Could be a case of one only does 1 hour, the other does 2. I mean, it's a real toss of the coin here, and they'll be competing up against what is, I would make the argument, a very good split of drivers for a 3-hour race. They've got a 3 driver lineup right behind them, that being of Craig Twardock, David Silf, and if you find the number 414 here, it's a horrible menu navigation as always from Assetto Corsa Competizione. Wouldn't be an ACC stream without it. Here we see Craig Twardock. So Marcus Carlos, David Silf and Craig Twardock make up that second place position. They have a lot to contend with here. They've got one of their championship rivals in a very narrow margin right behind them. That's the 788 of Elmas Mikkelsen starting from 4th. He's got Parker Sukup making up a buffer gap here in 3rd position. Sukup and Farish, the All-American lineup in the 789, are going to be very eager to try and lay claim to the gold today. After being so nearly unsure of it in the last round, XCL could have took that win, but chose to stay out. It was a very risky strategy by Mola. And getting on to the end of the round, it was this car here, the 414, that managed to catch them up, fought through thick and through thin there, MSA, above and beyond the call of duty at that final moment of round 2. One of the best finishes I think I've ever seen to an endurance race, all down to the wire after 4 hours, I believe it were, of racing. You see things starting to bunch up a little here. Bettentrup, Warner, Davies and Williams, and Skeen for that matter, all in what I would regard the danger zone here. One of the major crunch spots from 10th down to 20th on a grid like this. That's not to say we're not going to get any chaos in the top 10. So with Saunders starting on that front row, pardon me, as we get down towards through the RACC chicane and onto a very short run out of Catalonia corner, sometimes also referred to as the New Holland corner at turn 16. Watching on board. Getting ever closer to the start-finish line for round 3 of the NLRL Console Endurance Series here in Barcelona. Without further ado, we're green and racing here in Spain for the first time in the Console Endurance Series, and a great start by our front row. Saunders and Twardock in a drag race here, but catching them up in the slipstream is Sukup and teammate, I believe that was Mikkelsen's, but they've both been caught up by Milo Bergman. Watch this, 3 wides down into turn 1 already. Saunders leading, Bergman jumping 3 positions to second. Now that relegates Sukup to go side by side with Twardock and get himself up into 3rd. But what a start that was by Milo Bergman in the number 5. That's a horrible zoom in there. I think our replay system might be a touch broken today, so we will not be relying too much on that today. But what a start that was by Milo Bergman. Bar nothing, he absolutely sent it there into turn 1 and 2. Further down the line here, we can see a little bit of side-by-side here. Zambi Driver and Levi Warner down through Sayat corner. You see Skeen's gained a few positions here. He's up to 13th there ahead of Kyle Stephen Redmond. Now hunting down Jan Bettentrup. Martin van Manen in 8th position there with K1 hunting down David Urban. But we'll go on board then with Milo Bergman, as it was bar nothing one of the greatest starts to a race I think I've ever seen from the number 5. We kind of thought then that they would be down and out on that race start. They were down in 5th position, but little did we remember how fearsome that Mustang is in a straight line. He put the foot down and the world moved beneath him. Bar nothing, that is one of the best starts I have ever seen. And we'll see what he can do then on the exit of this first lap. Sukup 3rd, Twardock down to 4th then, reunited with former MSA teammate Jussi Virolainen in the Northern Lights McLaren there, who looks to be hunting him down, but has got his hands full with David Urban on his tail. What a race start that was then. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Down into turn 1 and 2 we go. Elfin Renault. So nothing just yet between the top 2. We'll catch up with them in a moment here, as we actually want to get on board one of the cars inside the top 5. As we just see here, Zambi Driver and Redman getting ever closer. They got Levi Warner for company. It's yellow flags though. Yellow flags there. Down through turn 3. We'll try and see what's gone on down there. The 71's been caught up in it. We can see that was one of the Northern Lights cars. Actually, I think that was Jussi Virolainen that got into quite a bit of trouble down there. We'll try and catch on board with him. See Virolainen there, and Van Manen as well caught up in the fray. So something has gone horribly wrong. We tried to catch up with Van Manen just a moment ago to see what was going on with that Mustang, but it was too little and too late there. The K1 number 1 car is in serious trouble. Now as we catch on board here, what looks to be a very interesting battle for 3rd position. Benjamin Hoopert in the MSA fighting Parker Sukup. Right behind him is his teammate Craig Twardock. The MSA duo looking to put the pressure here on Sukup in the 789. Further up the order then, hunting down the race lead off of Adam Saunders as Milo Bergman in the NLR number 5. Not entirely sure. Of course, our replay system is a little bit broken today. We're going to try and fix that next, so do bear with us as it is going to look a little bit janky trying to fix that the next time it does happen. We have since changed our resolution, so hopefully you should be seeing at home it's a much clearer view and higher frame rate for these streams today. We're getting kind of tired of having to stream at 720p. It kind of looked like we were streaming back in 2008. But no, we're trying to move this up to a crisp 1080 at minimum. And as a result of that, we did fail to check our replay system, which has since been rescaled. So we'll catch up with that in a little while. Do bear with us. But there we go. 2 hours, 55 minutes left to go. We're 5 minutes into a race, and already it has been drama on all corners. As we can see, that front row is getting very, very close. Actually, I want to get a look at that. Mikkelson's, though, just getting into a bit of a scrum with Williams. Mikkelson's also was caught up in that toll as he's down in 16th position, a long, long way from home. There's Van Manen overtaking Virolainen for 20th position. Virolainen's going to switch him back, though, through turn 3 and down towards Repsol. They have an infuriated Van Manen. They both overtake Bass PW with Thatch GT. Not sure what's gone on there. Let's try and look at our front row, though. Adam Saunders still leading this race then after 5 minutes, but is under siege by the imminent arrival of the number 5 Mustang there. You can see the green and black Mustang of Milo Bergman in the NLR Esports car, chasing down the purple and white car on screen here, the number 30 of Adam Saunders. So this is big time meets the privateers. You know, the officials and the privateers, they exist in sort of different lengths of the championship here. For Tempest, it's going to be supreme reign over the privateers division if they can finish right where they are right now, but they've got 2 hours 54 minutes to make that happen. That is no easy feat by any stretch of the imagination, and right now that hopes of a lead of this race is quickly starting to fall apart here. You can see in that last lap they were 0.07 of a second slower than Bergman, and now they're in the most vulnerable zone of the track here, a straight line where the Mustang just rules absolutely supreme over every other car in competition for straight line speed. The BMW can't keep track of that, the Lexus can't keep track of that. The Mustang is the new king of straight lines here in ACC, and we have straight lines aplenty. So out through turn 3, a little bit of understeer, I should say, by the Mustang, but it's actually lined him up a little bit better as we head through Repsol. So now as we go on board, the onboard cameras are the leading McLaren here with Tempest Motorsports. The Mustang now sneaking underneath its monstrous rear wing to have a look at a move very, very soon. We head up then towards turn 6, 7 and 8 here at the Worth corner. One of the toughest sections of the track for track limits. You can see that's not really as much a consideration for some of these drivers today. They can really get it in and over the curbs. The McLaren can be notoriously twitchy for stability over the curbs, but Saunders and Roos, whatever it seems that they've done with that McLaren, has really kept it level. But it's got unparalleled performance from that Mustang, I should say. As being one of the front-engine cars, one of the many great front-engine cars in the history of ACC, they are all absolute tanks over the curb. And as we head down into one of the bumpiest sections of the track here, the massive knee-high sausage curbs here at the RACC chicane. Well, knee-high if you've got no legs, I imagine, but very high nonetheless. Heading out through the RACC chicane and down through New Holland. He's actually gained quite a great deal of time there on Bergman. So Saunders really throwing everything at the wall here because he knows he has to be just far enough away as we head into the opening straight. So we'll catch up with these two in a moment's time. So we can see that is starting to sort of stabilise itself. We want to get a look then at the red-hot battle going on with the MSA and the exclusive car. So Parker Sukup now without the help of his teammate Elmas Mikkelsons, who's been relegated down into the sort of bottom of that top 20, as to face off against two of the leading MSA cars, one of which the championship leaders here on screen, the 414, going into turn 4. Bergman is getting close. You can see it on the overhead display there on the map to your left-hand side. The leading car indicated by the triangle there with a 30 above it. Just heading into turns 4, 5 and 6 now, or 5, 6 and 7 I should say. We're watching on board at the moment with one of 3 cars invested in the battle of P3. A battle all the way to the back of the top 5 then. two MSAs versus a singular exclusive. Virolainen has had a rough race. He had a very good qualifying and is now under siege here from Matthew Williams and the number 123 Fats GT Ferrari as we head into that same complex of corners. Kyle Stephen Redmond looking to be 8 alive here by Jörg Masserat. That Ferrari had incredible straight line speed on him. They're heading down into Lakaiha, a little bit of wheel banging to finish off that move there. Masserat now up into the top 10. Levi Warner hunting down a position for his own as well. So we want to try and fix this real quick. Do bear with us. We try and fit that to screen. There we go. That's what we need. We need proper clear view of what's going on here. We didn't want to go the entire race without our coveted replay system. This is what our employers pay for. You see here Kyle Stephen Redmond with a False Group Esports, one of our privateers and one of the furthest privateers up the order there, doing battle with another privateer, that being of NRW Performance's Jörg Masserat and Sebastian Turner. Bass PW caught in a bit of a sandwich here. Ian Skeen in front of him by 0.6 of a second. Ben Woodgate with the Super Swede Ferrari at his tail by 0.4 of a second. They're very close stuff for the back of the top 20. Hoopert gaining on Sukup. But let's see what's going on in our front row here. Whereabouts are they? Saunders and Bergman. A story as old as time here in Barcelona. Or about as old as 10 minutes, if you can make the more realistic comparison. Bergman still gaining by 0.4 of a second at the moment. So we head in to the middle sector of this track. Turn 7 and 8, then up to Kampsa corner at turn 9. What Formula 1 cars can do flat out, these cars certainly can't. It's going to be quite a big lift here by the McLaren to try and keep things in the clear and narrow. Inside those white lines, you can see the Mustang is gaining in that straight line. It may just be too short a line for him to get the maximum use out of that 5.4 litre V8. Now, there may not be a replacement for displacement here, but that McLaren, in every other strength of the track, can out-corner the Mustang. Better rotation, better stability. But as we're heading down here, the Achilles heel of the McLaren is about to really make itself clear. Out through the RACC chicane, you can see where Saunders is able to just get so much more rotation into the corners. There's so much more momentum to be carried, and that's where he gains a little bit of that time necessary. But 0.6 of a second, is it going to be a wide enough buffer to keep Bergman off his tail down into turn 1? You can see the Mustang is closing in. He was 0.05 of a second slower on that last lap, so Bergman's still at the disadvantage here. You can see he draws 0.6 down to 2, so that coveted buffer zone that he needs is at minimum 0.5 of a second before he can try and stave off a move from Bergman. If it's anything under 0.4, it may be too late for the leading car. See, Bergman always goes very wide at turn 3, but you can see it works to his strength because he's able to leverage some of that momentum into a monstrous end through Repsol corner. Keeps just shy of the inside curb, doesn't scrub any speed, and that's what allows him to stay with the McLaren for so long. The 787 car is in trouble, and in, well, I thought it was the pit lane for a moment there. We just need to check in on what's happened with the number 787, which appears to be in even further trouble than it was from the race start. Scrolling through to try and locate them now. Here's the number 787, so Gianluca Zamponi and Zambi driver, who's currently in the seat there, ran into even more trouble down at turns 1 and 2 at Renault and Elf. You can see that has since cleared off the green flag. So let's try and go back on board then the state of affairs that preside over the lead of this race. Saunders still incredibly vulnerable, and it's getting closer and closer every lap. Yeah, there is this impending sense of doom here with a Mustang in his rear view mirror. So we'll try and see from the onboard perspective, the rear view, and you can see the physical gap on track here as we head down the opening straight from the perspective of the Tempest Motorsports number 30, the leading car at the moment. So you can see that Mustang just starts closing in. Once you get past about 4th gear in these cars, that's when the Mustang really opens the taps. It was a 0.03 of a second downfall for the Mustang in the last lap alone. You can see how much time it makes up just in the straights there. 2 hours 47 minutes left to go then here in Barcelona. What has thus far been a very exciting race in our top 5. It has not been a grand race for some people who were in that top 6, namely the 787 and the number 71, who are both fallen further down the order after early race blunders. Not entirely sure what went on for the 787 and the 71. We know that the 71's incident was down at turn 3. The 787's, at least their second incident, was down at turns 1 and 2. So hopefully we'll be there for if another incident should arise. We'll just quickly take a look around here. The battle further down the top 5. Craig Twardock has dropped massively behind his teammate now. Benjamin Huppert and Matteo Mastromauro in the 416 are looking to fight with Chris Farish and Parker Sukup in the 789 ahead of them. So heading down into La Caja, it's McLaren v McLaren for third place at the moment in this race. Heading down in the RACC chicane. We want to see what's going on in that front row as well. You can see big lock of almost full-on oversteer from Huppert, but you can see just how hard he's having to tow that McLaren around in the dirty air of the one in front of him. Let's see what's going on then in our front row. That gap now sitting at a second, so really moving heaven and earth on this last lap was Adam Saunders. He is not letting the fact that he is the oppressive sight of that Mustang right in his rear view. It has just eclipsed anything behind him all race long. He's not letting that get the better of him. Adam Saunders, of course, winner in the TRR Sprint Series Season 4, was the champion. Knows a thing or two about how to drive this McLaren and how to drive it fast and how to work against pressure from the car behind, and right now is demonstrating that first and foremost. I highly doubt it was a skill he picked up in Season 4, but it's one that we definitely got to see here on TRTN. And it was impressive then, it's impressive now. We'll see what he can do then later on. Let's see, the Battle of Sukup between... the Battle of Sukup and Huppert for 4th position, or 3rd position, as the timing charts keep messing up there here on ACC. Up through turn 7 and 8, now up to Kamsa at turn 9. This is the closest battle for a position furthest up the order. Of course, there are other battles around the track we can have a look at here. We can also see from the tailing end of this battle, watching from the perspective of Huppert, the Irishman in the 416, joined by Matteo Mastromauro for this round of the championship. We'll see Mastromauro further down the line when we come in for our first pit stops in, I'd say, probably about 40 minutes time here in this race. Looking around the field here, we've got quite a scrum here. A few of the Fats GT cars and even their sister, the False Group Esports car. That's Kyle Stephen Redmond. We're watching the perspective here of Levi Warner in this brilliant ensemble of vehicles here. You can see furthest up the order there is Alan Alexander in the MSA Mustang, not MSA, sorry, the Euro Titans Mustang. Right behind him then, Kyle Stephen Redmond, Jörg Masserat, Elmas Mikkelsen's caught up in there in the 788 car, and Levi Warner. So let's see if we can get a look towards the front of that battle. This is Alan Alexander in the Euro Titans 314. He's joined by Tyler Vermack. This is his first drive in the championship, mind you. And he's doing a very good job here in the battle of P8, and quite a packed battle for P8 as well. Two privateers behind him there, being Kyle Stephen Redmond and Jörg Masserat. Elmas Mikkelsen's we saw in the background there made an incredibly long-winded dive, and there's trouble for him further down the line as he exits Renault. Now it's become a battle of two. Kyle Stephen Redmond has survived the onslaught, looking onwards for P8. Alan Alexander has defended an entire crowd of cars from his tail thus far. I don't think this is any too different a challenge for the Brits in the Mustang. We want to look further behind him, though, as things are getting red hot here. The perspective of Jan Bettentrup is he's got Nick Maschke to his inside, Jussi Virolainen to his hind, and ahead of him there, Elmas Mikkelsen's Jörg Masserat and Harrison Greenhalgh. As well as that, I believe that's Levi Warner as well. So plenty to discuss here. Let's see the perspective of one of the cars furthest up the lines here. Hunting 10th. That's Levi Warner ahead of him. This is the perspective of the Euro Titans Academy car. One of two drivers invested in this team, Kieran Rodd, and the driver currently behind the wheel from Guernsey, Harrison Greenhalgh. Jörg Masserat, though, right on his tail. This is for 11th position. Jörg has been very ambitious thus far in this race. Mikkelsen is trying to follow him through there, doesn't get it into La Caja. Greenhalgh to the outside then as we enter turn 11. Mikkelsen still hunting him down for what is now 12th position. Contact between them. Oh my goodness, you saw that there. Heading down into the Bank de Sabadell, turn 12. So he's lost the position out into P12. He's lost it out to Masserat. Mikkelsen is tired of waiting. He's gone for the inside. Massive contact there. That's not a good look. There's going to be some words with the stewards. I highly doubt they're going to be nice ones. Skeens right behind him there, as to is Woodgate. It has been absolute melee further down the lines here. That BMW skidding around. Now we're on board with Nick Mask. Zambi Driver to his rear quarter here. And it's nearly 3 abreast between himself, Driver, and Virolainen. Down into turn 1 and 2 we go. Virolainen to the inside at turn 1, becomes the outside at turn 2. Nick Mask up into 14th. Zambi Driver and Jussi Virolainen both challenging him here. The two McLarens really trying their luck. Round turn 3. Zambi Driver taking it wide. Virolainen to the inside. He'll be to the inside as we head to Repsol. But Mask has just got better straight line speed. Closes across the nose of the Finnish driver in the 71. Oh my word. You look further down the order, the more rewarding it gets. More battles on the way then. This is only just the beginning. 2 hours, 41 minutes left to go. This is brilliant stuff from the Spontaneous Racing team. Of course, he's yet to pass over to Mickey Skoros, the Emirati, on his team there on his inaugural drive in the championship. But Nick Mask is moving heaven and earth for 14th position, is looking to get closer and closer to Jan Bettentrop ahead of him. 1.8 seconds is the gap to make up. He's got his hands full though. Virolainen and Driver both challenging him for 14th position. What can he do in a situation like this? Heading down towards Lakaiha. Zambi Driver looking for the inside of Jussi Virolainen, but he's not going to get it. Down into turn 10 as we head to turn 11 and 12 at the bank to Sabadell, where we saw that incident between Greenhalgh and Mikkelsons. So things have gone from bad to worse for Exclusive. Now we must bear in mind they're quite high up in the championship standings, so it is definitely somewhat elusive to them to have two of their best scoring cars, which are joint second in the championship, be down in 12th and 15th. Jan Bettentrop ahead of Mask at the moment has a drive-through penalty. That's a free position, but he's going to have to worry about other things at the moment, namely Jussi Virolainen, who is right on his tail, heading down the opening straight. The Finnish driver on his first drive in a privateer team is giving the business to the 45, heading down into Elf. It has been brilliant stuff so far. Plenty of drivers in places they didn't expect to be, but making the most of it. And it is brilliant to see such close battling here in Barcelona. Virolainen, though, has got better rotation through turn 3. It's going to put him to the inside if he had better straight line speed. But note the fact, he's driving a McLaren, and that ain't a BMW, not in any books. But it might have been just too fast there for Nick Mask. So McLaren may just be absolutely enough. Heading down towards Seya, he'll be side by side with Driver as Virolainen goes up in to 14th position. Driver looking to go up a position himself is forced to the outside at Seya. Big snap of oversteer by the Exclusive number 787. I must say, Nick Mask is really putting on a show, as too is Jussi Virolainen for that matter, and for Zambi Driver. This has been real good theatrics here for what has been the opening 30 minutes of racing in a 3-hour race. So don't expect to go bored here in Barcelona. We're just getting started. Oh, outclocking his brakes. That could have been very nasty. Down at turn 10, around goes Levi Warner. That's a free position for all three of these drivers, and it's going to be much to the chagrin of the Fats GT Aston Martin. Number 23 now down to 16, could lose that to Ian Skeen behind him as he gets back on track round the bank to Sabadell. Down through the RACC chicane we go then. Mask from Driver, Virolainen ahead though, up into 13th position now. And we'll catch up with them in a moment's time. We want to try and see what's going on further up the order. We saw that Mikkelson's got past Bettentrop, and Bettentrop is now... Bettentrop got out in front of Mikkelson's. Mikkelson's looking to try and get back out in front of Bettentrop. That is what I was trying to get at there. The number 788 is quite some way down from where they'd like to be, especially in comparison to their race start. They nearly clocked the back end of that number 6 car. It's looking very, very interesting today. Very, very interesting. This is for 11th position, but we must consider Jan Bettentrop has a drive-through penalty to serve, so that's effectively a free position. It's how hard does Bettentrop want to make this for Mikkelson's to get up into 11th. Jussi Virolainen closing in 1.8 seconds away at the moment. And may not have had the best of race starts, but is having one of the best opening race performances. He's really come back from worse odds than this. Virolainen and David Beam already catching our attention here in the opening sort of hour of racing here for round 3. So we want to try and see what's going on further up the order. Parker Sukup is now gaining on Milo Bergman as he's dropped nearly 3 seconds away from the race leader. So Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos are on lightning performance here to be outgunning Milo Bergman and Andre Damrat on what was otherwise one of the greatest GT starts I think I've ever seen, especially from that duo who are so accustomed to starting from the front. They wanted to make sure this was a near instant transition to the front row, and they made it happen, and by God they did, going down into turn 1 and 2. I've never seen anything quite like that before. You need an advertisement and want to race a Mustang, look no further than the Ford number 5. Right now, though, Hupert and Sukup closer to each other than they are to the row ahead of them. 0.9 of a second. Hupert has started to fall behind here on Sukup, surfing the Americans' line. Here as we get towards the halfway mark of the first hour, though, Adam Saunders is sitting pretty in first and is in a very comfortable position at the moment to continue running away from the NLR number 5. See here, Levi Warner and Ian Skeen battle of the Aston Martins as they catch up to Nick Mashk in the number 45 Spontaneous Racing BMW. You're not shy of any proper good battles here in the top 20. Mash going very wide at turn 3. Warner could follow him round to turn 4. You can see the BMW has such great straight line speed. How can it fare up against the Astons, who have him all cornered in on the inside at turn 4 at Repsol there. Skeen looking to try and follow Levi Warner through. It's going to be held off. Down to Sayat. To the inside goes Nick Mashk in the 45. He wants that position back, and he wants it back now. Levi Warner still side by side with Nick Mashk as we head up towards Worth Corner here. This is brilliant stuff. Nail-biting performance from all three drivers. Battle of the front engine titans. BMW meets Aston Martin here in Barcelona. Now leading the fray of this three-car battle from 14th position, the number 23 Aston of Levi Warner and John Williams. This is brilliant, brilliant stuff. What can Ian Skeen do then from 16th position as Nick Mashk continues to throw everything at the wall here? He's bound to make another big mistake like he made before. Could it be a free position for the Euro Titan 696? Only time will tell. So we see here the perspective of Ian Skeen as he chases down Nick Mashk. He was looking there to pressure the BMW for the inside. He has conceded a touch on his line there, but the BMW with superior straight line speed is not going to make this an easy overtake. We'll stay on board with Ian Skeen then, and teammate Hayden Puttock as he's right in the slipstream then, basically parked on the rear bumper of Nick Mashk's BMW as we head down the opening straight towards turn 1. Harrison Greenhalgh, another Euro Titans car there, watching on from the background. He was took out of the fight. Further positions up then by one of the XCL cars earlier on. It was a nasty shunt that we saw. As a matter of fact, I believe if we were to go on our replay, well, we would definitely not have to there, but a contact nearly sends Nick Mashk flying around. Skeen's let him back out in front, but he's accidentally invited Greenhalgh in to come and prove a point here in the Academy car. Right behind him then, inviting into the play here, is another privateer car. That's Benjamin Woodgate. And the two other Fatch GT cars are now starting to join the battle here. Mashk is vulnerable down into Sayat, but it's going to switch back on Skeen. That is brilliant stuff. Watching in the replay, watch this. Expertly crafted by Nick Mashk. Let Skeen run him to the inside at Sayat. I'll have that right back off you, he says. Going to the inside. He's played an absolute dummy on him. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Heading out of Kampsa then, down to Lakaiha. Is it going to be second time's the charm for Ian Skeen as he's eyeing the inside to Nick Mashk? Mashk goes earlier on the brakes. Skeen's covering him off though. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me 2 times, shame on you. Skeen up into 15th position then, looking for a top 10 by the end of this round. And he's really making the effort to do so. Him and Puttock have got their hands full here with plenty of company at the back of the top 20, just as we get into the back of the top 15. Skeen goes wide though, is going to rejoin the track. Not sure if that was really a gain of time. I think it was just sort of keeping himself off the gravel there, but he's still incredibly vulnerable. Look at the amount of cars piling at his tail here. He's got Mashk, he's got Greenhalgh, he's got Woodgate, he's got Williams. He's got plenty of cars trying for the position he currently holds. Down into turn 1 and 2 we go. But we'll actually look in the rear view here. As you can see, it's absolute bedlam traffic. 2 BMWs, 2 Ferraris. Actually make that 3 Ferraris with the additional one of Woodgate there. Sandwiched in the middle. They overtake. That was Jussi Virolainen. So more trouble for the Finnish driver. as he's dropped even more positions from where we saw him last. What on earth has gone on for Jussi Virolainen? Nonetheless, for Ian Skeen, that was lightning fast performance from the Aston Martin. Let's see what's going on in the rest of that pack. Actually, just quickly seeing here, a battle for 8th position. Alan Alexander is under siege by Jörg Masserat, the 777 NRW Performance Ferrari, as we head down towards Lakaiha at turn 10. He's got Elmas Mikkelsens behind him as well in the exclusive number 788. This has been a brilliant round. Say what you'd like about Barcelona, it's not a boring race when it's GTs. I guarantee you that much. So let's get a look here. You just see again, this is from the trailing perspective here. Jörg Masserat has got Three's company for control of 8th position. He sits currently 9th. Is going to have to try and fend off Mikkelsens for that position, as well as trying to fight Alan Alexander for 8th position here inside the top 10. 3 different cars invested in it though, but all 3 of them hitching their trailers to that Mustang as it blasts a hole in the air. Fastest of the 3 of them in a straight line. They're all having a tuck in on the slipstream as we head down into turn 1. All aboard the Alexander Express. P8 is not going to go quietly here in the hands of the Brit in the number 314. He's got Masserat and Mikkelsens eyeing him up for position. The German and the Latvian both having a go here, but can either of them make a claim this early on in the race? We're just around 30 minutes in here. It looks like Masserat's going to give it a very good go as we head towards Sayat. Could the NRW 777 have a look up into 8th position? He's gone for the inside at Sayat. It could be minor contact. He's kept it very nice and tidy there. Alexander to the outside. Mikkelsens trying to follow him through as we head down towards Worth Corner. Things are getting red hot here. Side by side between Mikkelsens and Alexander. He's all over the shop. Heading down into Worth. Contact between Mikkelsens and Alexander. Alexander down to 9th there. I think 10th actually. Masserat up to 8th. Mikkelsens up to 9th. This is getting very nasty now between these 3. A lot of bad blood starting to brew at the back of the top 10. Mikkelsens has had absolutely none of it. He's had enough of waiting in the top 10. The 813 of Harrison Greenhalgh has brought the yellow flags out down at turn 7. Trouble for the BMW. That's quickly cleared itself out though. No need to flag it up on screen at the time of recording, as we're currently lasered in on the battle of P8. We wanted to get a look at what was going on further down the line in 15th and behind, but we've just been captivated by what has been a battle going nuclear here between the privateers and the officials. ETE and XCL being given what for by the singular NRW 777. We've always had them in our back pockets as ones to keep a close eye on, and it's for reasons like this why you'll never go bored watching an NRW car fly around this track. This is absolutely epic stuff so far. So we're 30 minutes in. Let's have a quick look at our overall standings. Adam Saunders leads 3.8 seconds ahead of Milo Bergman. Parker Sukup now under a second from the Mustang is challenging for second. Benjamin Hooper in 4th. Craig Twardock in 5th. David Urban moved up quite a few positions there, but the ACC Hungary team, they find themselves furthest up the order besides Tempest for Privateers in the 6th overall position. Chris Davies in the 315 Euro Titans McLaren is in 7th. The 2 on screen at the moment, Elmas Mikkelsens and Jörg Masserat do battle for 8th position. They're 8th and 9th respectively. Alan Alexander, who briefly had this position, is now down to P10. Kyle Stephen Redmond with False Group Esports is in 11th. Zambi Driver in 12th with Exclusive. Levi Warner with Fatch GT in 13th. Ian Skeen is up a few more positions now to inside the top 15. He's in P14 ahead of Matthew Williams in the Fatch GT number 1, 2, 3. Ben Woodgate in the number 13 car with Super Swede is in 16th. Bass PW is in 17th. Nick Mashk in 18th. Ben Sekis 19th. Harrison Greenhalgh after the yellow flag is in the back of the top 20 positions ahead of Jan Bettentrup in the number 6, not P6. He's in P21 as a matter of fact. Number 6 NLR Esports car in 21st. Ben Cheeseman with the 114 K1 Mercedes is down in 22nd. The K1 number 112, actually number 1 car as it's supposed to be known as, of Martin Van Manen and Toby Cyril are down in 23rd. Jussi Virolainen has had the worst of it though. The Northern Lights car now down, swapping for David Beam in 24th position. So we stay on board then. Masserat's under attack. Mikkelsens looking for the inside at Elf and has done that very quickly, very decisively. Razor thin stuff there for Elmas Mikkelsens. He's lost out on 8th position, I should say. Jörg Masserat as he's dropped down to 9th there. That was incredibly clean for Mikkelson's. He's had a rough run of it thus far. That one was very, very quick. So looking around the field, where's our next battle? Now, we wanted to catch what was going on down here. There were quite a few of the Thatch GT cars caught up in the mix of it now. I think this has thinned out a little bit to Three's company. 3 Ferraris in all, 2 Thatch GT ones, the 123 and the 223. That's of Matthew Williams and Bass PW. Currently stuck in the middle of them. The Super Swede of Ben Woodgate. Him and teammate Benjamin Matthew have got quite a job to do here. Woodgate was looking for the inside, but Williams just goes ultra late on the brakes to stop him from trying it at Sayat. Very nicely done there. The Ferraris on display, really showing us the strengths of the 296 platform. It's a car that I've gone on record to be quite a big advocate for, but there's been trouble for Williams. Some of the stability has gone quite south for him there out of Worth. And now as we exit Campsa, is incredibly close to the nose of Woodgate. So for 15th position, Williams could be in trouble here. There's still about 20 or so minutes before we could realistically expect our first of our pit stops here in Barcelona. Heading around we go into the RACC chicane. This is where cars can get very, very lofty over those curbs. The Ferrari is a notorious customer for instability over the curbs in its current configuration, inheriting some of the worst attributes of the 488 just by nature of being incredibly light and being incredibly precise. The Ferraris do suffer when push comes to shove and the track starts getting a little bit rough. That hasn't stopped the Ferrari 296, however, from being a very firm customer in events like the N24 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So never write this car off. And certainly not right now. It's a civil war in Maranello then. 296 against 296 against 296. Three's company as we head down into Repsol corner. The turn 4. You see Williams, that back end keeps stepping away. We'll actually check with the onboard footage, and it's the same story for Woodgate. That back end, they're running such low TC here to cope with the intense heat on track here in Barcelona. The back end is getting squirrely, so I think you could write a lot of those problems for stability issues for the mid-engine cars, not only down to the fact that there are plenty of corners like this complex in particular that catches them out quite nastily. It's also the fact that we're dealing with red-hot track conditions. It's a far cry from what the drivers had to go up against in Suzuka, where the temperature was dropping, and then got wet to add insult to injury. We're dealing with blisteringly hot conditions, and even cars as resolute as the 296, which go pound for pound the longest distance for tyre life, are struggling. So one must consider what on earth has gone on with the cars up in that front row. Well, let's go have a look then. As we see, and if my eyes do not mistake me, Milo Bergman is in serious trouble. That Mustang, which has otherwise been a fairly good customer when it comes to tyre life, is up against the McLaren of Parker Sukup. The 789 here is challenging for second position. So NLR, pace-wise at the moment, can't keep up with the leading Tempest, who is now 6.5 seconds up the road from the battle going on screen at the moment. This is for second place. We're watching the perspective of Parker Sukup and Chris Farris, and the 789 right behind them there, Benjamin Hubert and Matteo Mastromaro, hunting down Milo Bergman and Andre Damrat. This could get very, very interesting here. The Mustang is floundering. For whatever reason, there seems to be something wrong with the Ford Performance Mustang in second position. The McLaren is still gaining time here, only 4/10 of a second. I don't think it's going to be enough to close all the way down here. Mechanically, the McLaren's got nothing on the Mustang in a straight line. You can see in terms of pace in that last lap, it was only a few hundredths of a second, I think, faster in that last lap. So very little between them here. It's going to take a stroke of both luck and cunning to get Sukup up into second here. He's really going to have to catch Bergman by surprise, or something catastrophic has got to occur on the Mustang in front of him. Right now, pace alone, it's just too little, too late, as we'll get towards the end of the first stint when these two fully catch each other, unless something changes in the here and now here in Barcelona. Heading down into turn 5 then at Sayat. It's a fairly stable train here going on for second position. But all of this tussling and battling is just giving extra breathing room for the leading car of Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos. Tempest Motorsports have really took the entire paddock and the commentary box here on TRTN by shock. Going into round 3, it's jaw-dropping pace from the leading number 30. So we'll catch up with these two in a moment's time here. As you can see, they are actually getting pretty close. We'll just give it a few more here from the 789 to see if he can get anything done on Milo Bergman. It doesn't appear so as we head around the Banca de Sabadell, turn 12. The Mustang and the McLaren still in en passant, as it were, for second position. Running down that opening straight, you can see there it was 4/100ths of a second faster, I should say, but even faster than both of them. Heading for the high 145s is Hupert, so this could very well become what was 2's company is 3's a crowd for these two, as Benjamin Hupert quickly adds himself to the equation of that fight for second position. So we'll see where these three end up in a moment's time. Here's our leading car then, the number 30 Tempest Motorsports car of Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos. It has been nothing short of an elite drive from the privateer firm, and they have done a very grand job here. One that was admittedly, and no disrespect to them, incredibly unexpected here on TRTN. If you were to look at some of the qualifying predictions, it was set by his teammate, as a matter of fact. They were good enough for 8th position. They qualified pole, so they're really going above and beyond expectations by us here today, and are doing so gracefully. They're 7 seconds up the field from second position. They've left the number 5 in the dust, and more likely than not at the moment, for dead, because Sukup is chewing at his ankles here, getting ready for a move. There's not much further that Mustang can run here. It's being hunted down by 2 of these McLarens like hyenas on a deer in the Serengeti. There is very little room left for that Mustang. See, we want to just quickly see again, because that got very close just before we cut away. It's really a case now. You've got that anxiety. You cut away and we're going to miss that move. Right now, though, you can see Bergman still faster in a straight line. We're in that train again. As we just scroll across, you can see that Van Manen has Davies for company, looking to lap the number 1 K1 Mustang. Chris Davies, it's been a great opening drive here with teammate Jack Giles in the 315 McLaren. They head through the RACC chicane. Is the car at the back of that 3-car battle at the moment. Benjamin Hupert and teammate Matteo Mastromaro. The MSA 416 has a lot to play for in this round. 1.6 seconds down the field from them is the current championship leaders. Speaking of, as a matter of fact, let's see if we can get a look at the championship standings right now. The 414, of course, leads with 86 points, and joint second are 2 of the XCL cars, of which right now neither of them are inside that top 4. Let alone the top 10, I believe. They're still quite some way down the order, so expect a big shift of position. Same story for the K1 number 1 car, who is right now at the back of the field. The MSA 416, which you're seeing on screen at the moment, of Hupert and Mastromaro, are in 5th, so expect a leap out of them very, very soon. The number 5 is looking for more points here in this round. Whether or not they'll get them is another story entirely. They're currently 7th in the championship, looking to return to the front row. They were 1st in Imola, 14th in Suzuka, so they're really got a long, long way to go here, with 5 more races in the championship all the way until May of this year, to regain some of that lost points and lost time, for that matter, in that Mustang. We have a look around the paddock here. Things getting ever closer, as it looks to be more a case of the McLarens wanting to fight each other than it is the McLaren on the Mustang. All of this time spent in the wake of the Mustang has allowed Hupert to catch up to Sukup. We could see a battle between these two before they get close to that Mustang. You can see that straight line is the one thing keeping Milo Bergman from being overtook for second position here by Parker Sukup. He's got him everywhere else on the track. Pace has been in the court of the purple. McLarens are behind Milo Bergman at the moment. 2 hours, 17 minutes, 22 seconds left to go. And it has been an incredibly exciting hour. And normally, these battles tend to spread apart by the time we get to our first pit stops. Here's hoping that we're not going to see that. I would love to see battling like this for the next 2 hours and 70 minutes. I'm sure the drivers would like to be doing something rather than just mindlessly lapping the track in the sort of dry periods of these endurance races. Of course, that is always part and parcel of an endurance calendar. You're going to end up in that stage where strategy is going to play a huge part, and it's going to be staying out on your own, getting those consistent lap times in. It's the difference between what makes a good sprint racer and a good endurance racer is their capacity to knuckle down regardless of situation and lay in those good times. But this is where they all want to be. I think all of them like the idea of being close, being in a battle, having something to charge towards, having something to avoid. You can see right now, it's giving so much motivation to the cars around him to try and catch him up. Milo Bergman is incredibly vulnerable to the two, make it nearly 3 cars now, lining up to try and take second off of him. So far, he's had just enough straight line speed, just enough overall pace to keep things in a stalemate. But for how much longer? As every lap going, these two, Hupert and Sukup, are getting closer and closer to trying to take second place off that Mustang. Adam Saunders on that last lap did a 45.572. We'll see what these 4 do as they cross the line. 45.9, 45.917, 45.5. So, and 46.0. So Bergman slower than all 3 of the cars behind him. So there is definitely the requiem knell being rung here for that Mustang. The McLarens and the Ferraris have had enough of its antics, and that straight line is the only thing keeping him from losing the position, so we better hope that he can be ahead by the time we get out of turn 16 at the end of this lap, because things are getting very, very lively here in the top 5. Saunders, however, you know, it's a Saturday drive, I'd say, not a Sunday drive. That's tomorrow. It's a Saturday drive then for Saunders. He's had a brilliant qualifying. He's had fantastic pace. He's been incredibly consistent. Here's hoping then for that kind of sentiment across the rest of this race. When he hands over to Brendan Roos, whenever that may be, we'll see what goes on. See here, the onboard of Parker Sukup in the best position in the house, I'd say, for this battle. We get a clear view of what's going on ahead and what's going on behind. That's 789, the All-American lineup. And another new lineup for the 789. I think their 3rd iteration of it thus far. Farish returning to the seat after previously being expected to drive with Anthony Rodriguez on his first round in Imola, before he then vanished. Oh, I think we're in for some fun now, because you see that Mustang's really struggling, and it's a big snap of oversteer. Bergman loses out on second, so up into second place goes Parker Sukup. Craig Twardock's looking to go side by side with Milo Bergman. Let's see if we can catch on board with that just before the end of this straight here. Ferrari versus Ford, like back in Le Mans in the 60s, heading down into turn 1. Could Twardock think of anything here for Elf Corner, nearly to the inside of the Mustang of Milo Bergman? And this has kicked off right at the best time for us here. Towards the end of the first hour, Milo Bergman's down to 3rd. He was up a few positions on the start, but now they're starting to drop. He's pushing heaven and earth here to get away from that Ferrari and back up towards Parker Sukup. It was one fatal error down at the RACC chicane that's cost him 2nd at the moment. He doesn't want to repeat history here and make it the same thing that costs him 3rd. This is brilliant, brilliant stuff. On board with that Mustang. You can see just how much room Sukup has been able to make now that he's out of the slipstream of the Mustang. Now he's got a new threat lining up in his rear view mirror. That is the number 414 of Craig Twardock, David Silf and Marcus Carlos with MSA Racing. Current championship leaders up against former championship leaders here. So 2 Titans meet, as it were, down at turn 10, 11 and 12. As we get towards the Banc de Sabadell, we're at the end here of the opening stints. You'll start to see plenty more people run into the pits. I think on that lap that we saw the exchange of position, there were some drivers already making their moves into the pits. The number 813, that's the Euro Titans Academy cars in the pits at the moment. Swapping in for Kieran Rodd, the Australian driver in the Academy team for Euro Titans. We see of our 3 drivers here, neither of them have made a call to go into the pits just yet. So watching here the battle of 3rd position, Craig Twardock is eyeing up the rear quarter here. of Milo Bergman and Andre Damrat. They're supposed to be joined as well by Louis Baptiste. However, we're not 100% sure because we didn't see Baptiste at all in qualifying or in practice for that matter. But he is a reserve driver in the number 5. Otherwise best known here on NLRL for being the race winner at Silverstone in the NLRL Sunday League a few rounds ago. Speaking of, we've got the climactic season finale up tomorrow around the same time, 8 o'clock. Not 8 o'clock, sorry, that's my mistake. 18:30, so 6 o'clock. Or 6 to half 6 in the evening. Pretty sure it's 6 o'clock. Could be wrong, I'll double check that. 6 o'clock in the evening for round 8. If you're watching right now as well, we're about an hour into this race. We're also about an hour and a half, or about an hour, into the real-life Daytona 24. So do check in on that on IMSA.tv. We're not sponsored by them, of course. We just want to let you know. Heading up through Kamsa, down towards Lakaiha. Bergman is vulnerable. 0.6 of a second. Just trying to stave off the Ferrari here to get to the end of the stint. He's only got a few more laps in the tank here to swap over to either Damrat or Baptiste in the number 5. They've got their hands full. They were pretty confident in their assertion to try and take the lead of the race, but as Saunders' dominant performance just kept outshining their own, they kept dropping further and further behind. He's pushed that Mustang one too far. He's already lost second. Could he lose third? We saw it was stability issues here at the RACC chicane that took the Mustang out of the feasible fight for second. At the moment, he's 1.6 seconds, just 1.5 now as we cross turn 16 and cross the start-finish line. You can see of the two, he's 4 times faster than Twadok. So I would make the assertion at the moment that that battle is somewhat off the table. They're close to each other, but not battling. There's a distinct difference. Jan Bettentrup here, the sister car, the NLR number 5, is down in 18th position, trying to hunt down Matthew Williams in the number 123 Fatch GT car ahead of him. He's 6.7 seconds up the field. Closest car to him is the car trying to unlap himself there. The blue and white, the 813 Euro Titans Academy car. Kieran Rodd behind the wheel at the moment of that BMW. In this one, however, Jan Bettentrup in the number 6, the sort of dark bluish black and green here, the NLR Esports car. Speaking of BMWs, David Urban and the ACC Hungary team have had a remarkable yet silent performance in 5th position, the furthest up they've been in a long, long time in this championship. As we get towards the end of the first stint, the trio of Urban, Ochner and Persia have done remarkably well for privateer standards. Of course, the privateers have already come out of their shells for this round. We've seen plenty of breakout performances. This is one among many, and it's been very grand out of the BMW team at the moment here. The team representing, of course, Hungary and its representation in the NLRL Console Endurance Series, the one standing beacon for the country in East Europe. We raced at a Hungarian track not long ago, as a matter of fact, at the Hungaroring last Sunday for the 7th round and penultimate round, mind you, of the NLRL Sunday Series. So it is always interesting to see here what these privateers can do. And from what corners of the world we find them from. We didn't have many drivers on our radar from Hungary before this championship kicked off. We've got plenty to discuss now. David Urban, Gabor Ochner and Tomas Perger, chief among them. Speaking of BMWs again, here's Nick Mask in the number 45 Spontaneous Racing BMW. He's joined for this round by a new driver for this championship, making his debut here in round 3, the Emirati of Miki Skoros. Right now, they've got Bense Kiss and the 711 Paul Ralph Porsche for company, down in 19th position. Mask had some very fun battles earlier on in the race, but is down in 19th at the moment at the end of the first stint. We'll be seeing him swap over to Skoros at some point, maybe this pit stop or next, but do expect a very lively pit lane in a few minutes' time here in the circuit of Barcelona, Catalonia. We do have a yellow flag. It was the 414 here. It's Craig Twadok. So that's trouble for the car down in 4. Fortunately, they're so far ahead of Urban that there's not really many threats of a loss of position, but they're a long way away from the battle they like to be in, and that is the battle of third position. Twadok was gaining for quite some time there on Bergman and was looking to take third for his own. Sadly, that's gone by the wayside here. They'll have to reconsider their options going into the next stint of this race. So looking around to see where our battles are coming from, it's looking lively here towards the back of the top 10. Pardon me. This is Zambi driver then in the 787, one of the two cars tied for second place here in the championship standings. currently looking to fight Alan Alexander in the Mustang ahead of him there. The Euro Titans car on his inaugural drive is under siege for what I believe is 10th position. I honestly have no idea because the timing charts to our bottom left hand are giving us very little accurate indication of what exactly we're dealing with. I'm pretty sure we're dealing with 10th. Wouldn't be an ACC stream without the game sort of soiling itself, let's put it nicely. But right now is the battle of, I believe, 10th between Zambi Driver and Alan Alexander. Ford versus McLaren down towards Lakaiha. What can the 787 do? He's to the inside. A bit of contact there between himself and the Mustang. Now heading up through turn 11. He's to the outside. He's going to try to swing it across the nose. Holding on to 10th then. Zambi Driver in the 787 alongside Gianluca Zamponi up into 10th. Right behind him there, Alan Alexander, as well as Kyle Stephen Redman and Matteo Mastromaro after taking a pit stop there in the 416. So let's see what goes on here as we head through the RACC chicane, one of the crowded area, well, one of the most crowded runs through that area of the track I've ever seen. Now we see that Sukup in second at the moment, looking to lap Cheeseman on his way to the leading car of Saunders, who is now 10 seconds up the field. Absolutely brutal stuff. We're on board now with Matteo Mastromaro at the back of this 4-car battle for 10th, and he's already taken a pit stop, mind you. So having swapped out from teammate Benjamin Huppert, the ball now in the court of the Italian to play for in this opening second stint of the race here as we get down towards the end of the first hour. He's got Kyle Stephen Redman in front of him for company here. The Falls Group Esports number 296 is next in the sights as we head down into Repsol, turn 4. You see Redman just holding him off here for 11th position. Mastromaro trying to keep things relatively civil here on the start of his run, and he knows that he'll be gaining a quite hefty sum of positions when all 4 of these cars ahead of him go into the pits, or all 3 of these cars, I should say, go into the pits ahead of him. There is a 4th further up the road. That's Ian Skeen, who's up into 9th. It's been remarkable from the 696 from Euro Titans. The Aston Martin, who started quite some way down, is now inside the top 10 here at the end of the first stint. It is a sign of good things to come then. So going down into Lakaiha, side by side with Redman, looking for 12th position and gets it there. Can he surf that all the way into the Mustang ahead of him? That's Alan Alexander with Euro Titans in the 314. He's got Tyler Vermack on his team as well. Heading down in the RACC chicane. Will we see a few runs into the pit lane there? You can see further up the line, just escaping our sight here. Now you can see a much better view of him. That purple McLaren of Zambi Driver in the 787 exclusive esports car, I guess. Car. Alright, so now, going down the opening pit straight, I should say, is a battle of straight line speed. Mustang versus McLaren, heading down into turn 1. Alan Alexander has mechanically better straight line speed, but is he going to be the last of the late breakers? Matteo Mastromaro is taking it to the inside for 11th. That is brilliant stuff. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Light work by MSA's Matteo Mastromaro. He's got 2 positions up in just over a lap there. Next in his sights is going to be Zambi Driver for 10th position. These are just going to fall down the wayside by like dominoes effectively here as we get to the second stint. Mastromaro and Huppert already have grand pace heading into the second most stint of this race. The second third, as it were. Looking around here, Levi Warner and Ben Woodgate very close to each other. Number 23 versus number 13. Fatch GT versus Super Swede. This is for 14th position, the leading of the 2, the Aston, trailing of the 2, the Ferrari. Things are very close between the pair of them here. It's a much quieter battle than we were expecting. We've been, I'd say, spoiled for choice over the course of this race. We've had 4, maybe 5 car battles at some point here in the opening hour, especially down towards the back of the top 20. This is a very civil one-on-one duel between Warner and Woodgate. We'll catch up with them later on here. Here's Ian Skeen, a real overachiever in this race here. He's qualifying's rarely ever been Skeen's day, I would say. Having known this driver for some time, I saw his early performances in TRR. I got to see where that took him into other leagues. And right now, in his most recent era, here in the Aston Martin with Euro Titans. Normally he's accompanied by Aaron Williams, but for this round in the championship, he's joined by Hayden Puttock, who we've also seen here on TRTN in the Sunday series for NLRL. He's a very solid driver in the Aston, so a very decent pickup replacement for Williams. Not sure why Williams can't make it, but he is hoping that we get to see him again, and Puttock can also race along. I think there would be a very good trio, because you've got three drivers who are very comfortable in that Aston Martin, and qualifying's never been their day, but this is where they make up the bulk of their time. They're not ones for the straight line pace, they're ones for the consistency, and that's what remarks Skeen as one of the many great drivers in my books, is just his tenacity to gain positions. A single lap rarely ever defines a race. I think it's a 1 in a million chance that you get to see that. I think the last time we got to see that was in this championship back in Suzuka. One lap really can define a race when push comes to shove. But in the grand scheme of things, rarely is that ever the case. Skeen recognises this, and he's definitely one of the more consistent drivers on the field. We don't see him making too many of the craziest moves going, but he's always there, just in the line of sight, making moves up where it matters. And this sentiment really seems to be the going motto for Euro Titans. They have a lot of drivers here that are definitely among the most consistent on the field. That hasn't stopped them, however, from finding their way into trouble. All big teams end up with at least one major incident. It never, you never go out of your way to find them, but it always finds you at the end of the championship. But Euro Titans has done remarkably well, I would make the assumption. And having seen like the early days of quite a few of these teams, it is really something to behold, to watch their sort of final forms blossom as it is at the moment. I think one of the best examples I could make the claim for was MSA. I got to see their earlier performances in much older series than this. I think I got to see, I could be mistaken, but I could have sworn MSA competed amongst the last rounds of the GHR XEC. That was when we first saw drivers like Ilkay killing Koglu, and now that he's in with this team, and this team has had so much time to sort of grow and to develop, and they're one of the genuine front runners. They lead the championship right now, and this car in particular, which now leaps for the pit lane here as we just cross under an hour into the race, or just over an hour, I should say. Crow Twardock into the pits, joining him then Milo Bergman, also in the pit lane at the moment. The NLR number 5 will be handing over to Andre Damrat, most likely here on this stint. So we'll stay on board with some of the cars that have already been in and around the pits. Here's one of the Northern Lights cars. This is David Beam, joining Jussi Virolainen in their debut here at round 3 of the championship. It was a rough start to the race here for this privateer team, but they've always been there. Just like the Euro Titans cars, they've always been there where it matters. They've been in those battles every single time. I think this is probably the quietest things have been for the number 71 all race long. Looking around the field, Mikkelson's is taking it late here on this first stint. We're coming into the pits later on. You now see on his first drive of this race, Gianluca Zamponi on his inaugural drive in this season with XCL, driving alongside Zambi driver, the all-Italian lineup in the 787. These two look to be working quite nicely together. We saw a little bit of him in practice, but this is his first time in racing conditions. You see there's a little bit of teething issues there as he's getting the tyres up to temperature. Won't take long given track temperatures right now. 35 degrees. It is quite hot here in Barcelona. Not the hottest it can be. Air temperatures in Spain have reached highs of over 40 during heat waves. So these drivers can consider themselves lucky that their tyres haven't been flame broiled and fried here in Barcelona. Adam Saunders is in the pit lane, so Parker Sukup is going to inherit the race lead. We see it here, taking things very late in the 789. The new race leader, Parker Sukup and Chris Farish, the All-American lineup in the 789 exclusive eSports McLaren. As our current race, well, former race leaders now, you can make the assumption of Adam Saunders and Brennan Roos are in the pit lane with Tempest Motorsports. We'll catch up with them as they exit the pit lane. Most of the drivers here are going to be considering that full standard custom stop, so extra fuel, extra tyres and a driver swap, all of that can be done in about 20 to 30 seconds with no damage. A lot of the drivers will be holding off on the justification of let's get some of that damage repaired, especially if it's very minor, because that can add upwards of minutes to your pit stop time. This isn't Formula 1, you don't have a 15 to 20 man crew working on each car. You've got about 5 of them, and 5 of them doing 10 man's worth of job. So that's a lot to pile on the pit crew there. That's why these pit stops take so long in comparison to other series. Well, consider yourselves lucky that you're not a rally team where it's going to take upwards of 40 minutes to fix the car, as we've seen in Monte Carlo over the last couple of days. So, having a look around the field, here's Matteo Mastromaro. Him and teammate Benjamin Hooper already having took their pit stops. They're currently 4th at the moment, chasing down Brendan Roos. Actually, they're 5th there. It's just updated. They're chasing down Brendan Roos, who now takes the helm of the number 30 car, chasing down Chris Davies. So let's see if we can go on board then. We see Skeen and Warner, 2 Aston Martins here in the pit lane. As things start to pick up, there is upwards of 5 cars in the pit lane. Jan Bettentrup joining them now. We've also got Matthew Williams, Bass PW, and a few others in the pit lane at the moment. Gabor Okner now takes the helm of the 666 ACC Hungary BMW in a brand new livery. It looks remarkable, that the colours of the M Sport Tricolore, as it were, the sort of cyan, the blue and the red, all on a silver paint job. It is quite a looker, that BMW. Top marks to whoever made that livery. Bense Kiss into the pits then as well, with the Paul Ralph team, number 711, making their way in as we speak. See Sebastian Turner now in control of the 777. This is for NRW Performance. He's took over from Jörg Masserat, so we'll see what Turner can do. We saw that on that timing chart for our predictions, Turner was, of the two in that team, the faster, setting the time that would have been good enough for 9th position of 44.667. So high hopes here, riding on the back of Sebastian Turner in his opening stint for this race, the second of 3 stints available for most teams here. Marcus Carlos now looking to get around Ben Woodgate. Let's stay on board here. The 414 now having finished off their first of two expected pit stops in this race for strategy. Carlos there getting a free position as Woodgate dives for the pit lane. He's now up to 7th. He's going to jump a few positions here up towards the top 5 as he crosses the start-finish line here. Quite a few positions just handed off to him. He's up to 4th. See another Matthew Williams, the second of 2 Matthew Williamses in the 1, 2, 3 there. Having a look around the field here just to see what on earth is going on. What's the state of affairs here? Martin van Manen looking to lap David Beam. Brendan Roos then is back in control of things after the leading exclusive car, or then leading exclusive car, has now gone into the pits. So back in control. And at the moment, with 6 seconds to spare from Matteo Mastromaro of MSA. So have a look here of our standing order. And for Chris Farish, it's gone by the wayside here. He's 2 seconds away, I think. Actually, he's 7 seconds away there from Matteo Mastromaro. So that pit lane run has gone quite badly there for them, keeping it late. They were hoping to get a bit of an overcut stuck in there on MSA. It's actually gone all wrong for them. He's now backed himself up towards Andre Damrat, who is fired up and on all 8 cylinders here, hunting down 3rd. So let's go on board with the Mustang then, as we just see here, Ian Skeen and Gianluca Zamponi. Down into turn 5 we've got Zamponi on brand new tyres. Skeen is vulnerable and yet to have took a pit stop there. He's yet to have passed over for Puttock. And that's going to be a done deal for Zamponi. Heading up into turn 7. Off we go then. Turn 6, 7 and 8, I should say, as we now head up towards Campsa. The Aston's going to stick very, very close there, but with floundering tyres, there's not an awful lot Skeen can do here, but get himself prepared for that second stint. He'll have Martin van Manen for company, who has really gone above and beyond the call of duty there. The K1 number 1 car was, for but a moment, quite down and out with it. He had heavy damage at the start of this race and has gone above and beyond to put himself currently 11th. He'll drop a few positions, of course, when he makes his way to the pit lane to swap over for teammate Toby Cyril, but that is remarkable stuff from K1. You can see another battle here between a pitted and unpitted car. Jack Giles with company here from Elmar Mikkelsons. 2 McLarens on their way down to the line. You can see lower aero setup for Mikkelsons. It's given him so much more time in the straights there against Giles. But Giles has brand new tyres, so Mikkelsons is really going to have to run the ragged edge here of performance on those floundering Pirellis to get himself up into 7th. I think he might just get it in there because he's now to the inside heading down towards Repsol. Out of turn 3 we go. What can he do here? It's going to be side by side. Mikkelsen still to the inside. His Steele's going to try and line him up for a switchback as we head down towards turn 5. Down at Seat. That was very well crafted by Mikkelsen's. Bear in mind, no new tyres yet for that car. The number 788 got that one done on worn out Pirellis. Matteo Mastromaro in second at the moment and opening the gap up between Farish and Damrat. Let's actually get on board with the trailing car of this mixture then, as we just saw Van Manen, as we scrolled across there, is now in the pit lane in the Mustang and has dropped quite a few positions down there to 18th. He had a very valiant run of things there, but still a long way to go, an hour and 51 and 30 seconds thereabouts. And now on board with the NLR number 5, the Mustang of Andre Damrat, who took a sabbatical in qualifying. Now, I think that's really what costed him. That's no disrespect to Milo Bergman. It's just that of the two, if we were to look at our data charts, it's usually always been the fastest of the two drivers that ends up with their timing on the charts there. And there was quite a large disparagement in overall pace between Damrat and Bergman. I think maybe it was an opportunity to see what Bergman was capable of by NLR Esports. Was it a call made on the inside that made that decision possible? As I feel like if they handed it into the control of Damrat, if he was there for that matter, he may have been just absent up until the end of qualifying, just wasn't going to be around to set a time in, wasn't going to have enough time, maybe with external factors at play. But I think them not playing him early is what's cost them pole. And further down the line, now that he's only just been let into the seat, is the opportunity they need now to try and gain more positions. No disrespect again to Bergman, he has had a phenomenal race, but no one can take that start off of him. Absolutely no one can take that start off of him. There's something had gone direly wrong halfway through that stint for him to have dropped so much time to a car that he was all over the back end of at the start of that race. This is the battle of third place at the moment. And Damrat showing us what the Mustang can do in a straight line here. It's the same thing that Bergman was able to use in a defensive formation. Now used on the offense to the outside at turn 1. Gives him the inside at turn 2. Minor contact there. Both of them have done remarkably well to not turn that into a big off. You see they're heading down into turn 1. He's to the outside. So quite skillfully played by both of them. You can see just not enough room there as we get to turn 2. Front wheel to rear wheel and a bit of a double knocker there. Not grand for Andre Damrat, but not lost a lot of time either. Still in 4th, still half a second away. Still absolutely in the fight for 3rd. Is that going to put a little bit of a chip on his confidence there? Especially in that section of the track where he otherwise thought he would have had the space for. You can see he did dip over the curb at turn 2. As a matter of fact, if we just go and look at the replay again, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So down into turn 1, perfectly fine. There into turn 2, he's practically halfway over the curbs there, so he's hardly on track anymore. Now, on most corners, you're within your rights to do that. I'm not arguing with that. This is obviously, he's just not given himself the room. So neither has Farish really had to reciprocate that. He's not had to be courteous about it because the car's practically leaving the track to get around him in his eyes. So maybe that's what the governing factor was behind that. Nonetheless, though, it's not really set these two on too far off a track from each other. It's not put really any major consequences on either of their races here. It's a minor knock in the grand scheme of things. And they're just going to keep fighting until one of them yields here. And these are two drivers you rarely ever see yield. Damrat and Farish, two very fierce competitors here. You can see for Andre Damrat, he's closing in on that McLaren. You can see they both start hugging that far left side of the track here to give them the best possible line through turns 1 and 2. See, the Mustang, though, of the two of them has had the better momentum, but where's that going to place him? Is he's actually having to chip some of that momentum away, touching on the brakes there. Else he run into the back end of Chris Farish, but it could be the place he needs to be right now. Earlier on the brakes, letting Farish run himself to the inside, trying to defend. What on earth could he be constructing here in this move up against Chris Farish? For Andre Damrat, oh, it's a snap of oversteer there as he gets in towards Seat. That could have ended in disaster there. You saw just how quickly he had to react. So coming out of turn 4 here, He's put himself to the far right-hand side of the track. You can see right about there, that's where he picks up a bit of grass, and the Mustang wants to step away. He's put all of the weight of the car over a side with no grip. You see it sometimes in tarmac rallies. If they dip one wheel over onto the grass, there's just this sudden sporadic loss of grip. You put all of the weight over a side that won't give you any grip. And that's where you get to see tail action like that. 1 hour and 47 minutes left to go, just under now, here in the third round of this championship. It has been already very, very interesting stuff. Twists and turns of fate from all walks of the paddock. And I'm sure an unexpected leader to give us a very interesting first half. You see, of the two of them, Damrat was actually slower by 0.4 of a second on that last lap. Now, we must thank that part and parcel to that big snap of oversteer that he had. And he had to correct down at turn 5. Something is amiss with the way the Mustang has been set up. Now, we've very little data, at least from our commentary box here, from my experience in commentary of what the Mustang handles like in the heat. We've seen hot races before. We see what it does to otherwise very sturdy cars. I drove a hot race ages ago now, back when I used to race on this game in the TRR Sprint Series. It was Season 2 at Laguna Seca. And it was something in and around the range of like nearly 40 degrees. And the tyres would just give way after 2.5 laps. So we can only imagine what the driver's going through here. Trying to wrestle maybe even a few tenths out of these machines at the moment. And even cars that have got arguably superior straight line speeds and superior forms of pace are all in their own unique way struggling. Right now, though, that battle of third has simmered down. I don't think we're going to see anything out of that just right now. We're going to have another look around the field here to see what's going on. Mickey Skoros and Kelvin Castens are closing in on one another, but Mickey Skoros is going to have to give way to Marcus Carlos. You see they're signalling Carlos to get him by at turn 11, lets him through there in the number 45. That's going to put a hamper in his battle for 17th position. The gap currently sitting at over 5 seconds to this driver here, Kelvin Castens in the number 6 BMW. Kieran Rodd yet to have took a valid pit stop, I believe. This is on account of the fact that you have to fulfill certain parameters here before your pit stop is counted as valid. I believe that's also a swap of tyres or a certain amount of fuel. And there is a certain checklist these guys have to complete in order for it to be recognised as a valid pit stop. At the moment, the Euro Titans Academy team, despite having swapped for a driver, have not fulfilled that prerequisite, perhaps looking to extend the life of the tyres here, or hoping they've got enough fuel for at least half a stint here. Not sure what kind of strategy they're cooking up, but there's only 2 in that car at the moment, where there were 3 in the round gone before. It's only 2 this time, Kieran Rodd and Harrison Greenhalgh. Either I'm blind or that Porsche has changed colour when it's gone from Ben Sekis to Martin Pesti. They're down in 24th, having, I believe, rejoined the session. And, well, seemingly in the pit stops, they've had a graphic designer come down and give them a complete new livery, and then they've had to cut out all the stencils and whack that on the car. I don't know how they've managed to do that in 20 seconds, but that's remarkable stuff there from the Poor Ralph team. And they changed the number too. This is Matthew Copsey in the number 13 car. And this is the last second entry for the Super Swede team. Just stay on board with them there as they eye up the battle ahead of them in 13th, but they've got Brendan Roos and David Beam to get by before they can have a go at something along those lines. So now back on board here, Marcus Carlos. And this is where we get towards what I wouldn't say is the necessarily dry section of the race. It's where a lot of the drivers are now spread apart. We've got very few battles going on that aren't hampered by either lapped position or pit strategy. There are very few for-position battles going on at the moment. Oh, that was a big snap there by Gianluca Zamponi. Ian Skeens right behind him there, yet to have took a valid pit stop, running very long there for the 696 Aston Martin with Euro Titans. This is actually for position, but we must consider then that pit stop as well. In a straight line, the McLaren is gone, and is looking to catch up on this car ahead of him here, the Euro Titans 315 of Jack Giles. He's got Chris Davies for company, who we saw earlier on in this race as well. Just looking around to see where our battles could be coming from. The closest was the battle of third, Chris Farish versus Andre Damrat, but that's now gone to within over a second. Could see this battle here, the battle of the K1 cars. James Mason competing with 2 broken metacarpals and an injured hand is still putting it inside the top 20, but it's going to have to fend that off from the approaching Mustang. You see just in the background there of Toby Cyril in the number 1 car. Remarkable stuff though from Mason. As we see here with the car tailing him, you can see just up ahead the white and blue of the Mercedes, the number 114 car. Remarkable stuff. I must state this again. James Mason, racing with an injured hand, has done now 3 races this week. Starting all the way back last Sunday, coming into this week, he's done 3, at least 3 races that we've covered, and is on for his 4th tomorrow. So injuries be damned, he is still firing on all cylinders here. We'll see what he can do up against Toby Cyril later on in this race. Tyler Vermack then in the number 314 has got John Williams for company in the 23 behind him, 1.2 seconds down the field. And then closing in, so we could see a battle there for 12th position coming up. Really, right now, this phase of the race is just looking around, seeing what's the current whereabouts of a few of our drivers here. We can see traffic for Copsey. Matthew Copsey here is going up against Matthew Williams, as Matteo Mastromaro gets him by there, lapping him the 2nd position. For Copsey then, sadly, we don't have a graphic that shows both him and Woodgate. Otherwise, we would have put that back up on screen, as we've had to adjust things before when the driver lineups do change. And such is the temperamental nature of things here, that we mistakenly thought that Benjamin Matthew was going to be in the car with Ben Woodgate. It is Matthew Copsey for this round with Woodgate. So our sincerest apologies there to Copsey, but there you have it. The number 13, though, crossing the line there, 14th at the moment, some way away from the car behind him there. That really has closed that gap in quite nicely there, I say, down into turn 1. But for Williams behind him, that 1-2-3 still has to take a valid pit stop. So whether or not they're going to fight this all the way to the last stint to where they make that proper validated pit stop, I'm not sure what the strategy is going then for these tyres. Then you would have thought every pit stop, and you can think the bulk of the pit stops have swapped their tyres. There are a few that are confident enough to take that all the way to the 3rd stint on the same set of tyres. Namely, at the moment, they mostly seem to be around that midfield. Williams, Skeen and Mickelson's all chief among them. Mickelson's, of course, has gone long on this stint to try and preserve some of that standing order they qualified in. If we take a look at that qualifying positions before, you see that Mickelson's was quite some way up the order. He was in 4th alongside Nat Bennett. His teammate there was going to start on the back of that 2nd row. Right now, though, they sit on the start of the 4th row. So a long, long way from where they would like to be, but making do with what they have. A drive-through penalty, just as we caught them there, for Matthew Copsey, the number 13 Super Swede Ferrari. You see here with Williams, the 1-2-3. Now capitalising on a frustrated Copsey to get a free position. Up into 14th position he goes. See here, Sander Verstappen side by side with Chris Farish, but not for position here. 2 completely separate lengths of the race, but it is putting a buffer zone in the battle of Farish v Damrat. Andre Damrat now nearly 2 seconds down from Chris Farris. So something is going wrong with the way the number 5 has been set up, because neither of the two drivers in the NLR number 5 have been able to give it a good crack. We saw a good start from Milo Bergman. We've seen a decent pickup from Andre Damrat, but it just quickly drops away. Something isn't clicking in the Mustang, especially not here at Barcelona. It stopped them from having better results in qualifying, and now it's stopping them from having a better race. See, Brendan Roos here is right on the back of John Williams, letting the Aston know he wants to come on by. I think the Aston's going to go very early on the brakes to let, yeah, there we go, the McLaren get him through at Lakaiha. That is putting a hamper in his battle with Tyler Vermaak in the 314, who will soon also have to move over for the race leader in the Tempest Motorsports number 30. We'll stay on board with the race leader over the course of this lap here as we just get to see him navigate some of that traffic. Next up the field will be Patrick Leger in the number 296. That's for False Group Esports in 23rd. Though I don't think he'll catch him by the end of this lap. We're back in just a moment's time. There we just catch at the end of this lap. The Tempest Motorsports Brendan Roos still leading this race then, and leading by a wide margin. Matteo Mastromaro only just crossing the line now, and is at the time 5 seconds down the field. But we must make the argument 5 seconds, and that's tempering around the top end of it. It could be closing in soon, it could be getting further away. Just too early to tell in this battle. This is Elmas Mikkelsen's taking things very long for strategy in the number 788. Fellow XCL driver then, Gianluca Zamponi in the 787, still under siege then for 9th position by Euro Titans' Ian Skeen, the Aston Martin. The difference in strategy has done little to deter Skeen at the moment, even though he's yet to take a pit stop that's validated by the stewards. He's still fighting tooth and nail against Exclusives number 787. And for Gianluca Zamponi on his first drive in this series, he's got a lot of expectations to fulfill on with how high the turnover is at the moment at XCL. We do see a lot of drivers come and go with that team. A lot of high expectations to perform. Right now, putting on a decent show here from 9th position, 4 seconds from 8th. But his main problem right now is in the shape of the blue and white Aston Martin on his tail. That's Ian Skeen. See if we can actually find Skeen here and get the perspective of the trailing cars. We see on board the Aston Martin 696 of Skeen and Puttock. Currently in 10th, fighting for 9th. They've been harassing Zamponi's McLaren for the last couple of laps here, just eyeing it up for a move. He knows that he's vulnerable in that third sector. He may not even need to wait until then to have a go, but you can see he has accidentally followed his line. A little bit of that mimicry you see in tail-to-tail racing. often is a case where the mistakes are also copied when you're following a driver's line. But following a driver's line has been more than comfortable enough for Skeen because he's been able to stay very close, keep the pressure on Zamponi, could force a mistake out of him. Moreover, could surf it into his teammate, Jack Giles, also with Euro Titans. They could have a little bit of a coordinated move here to try and help each other out. A monstrous roar there, that 4-litre AMG twin turbo V8. A proper engine in that Aston. Admittedly, it's a far cry from Aston's old era of running naturally aspirated V12s, which we'll be accustomed to hearing tomorrow, but the new era for the V8 Vantage, and here's hoping to see the V8 Vantage Evo soon in this game as well, has been really one to behold. Obviously, coming off the back of successes in Le Mans was this platform developed from the 2019 Le Mans winner. And Aston Martin have a long history with the Vantage now in successes in endurance racing, so let's see what they can do today in the hands of Ian Skeen and Euro Titans Endurance. Looking around the field there, as you just catch on board, that was Mickey Skoros, the number 45, having a big spin around there at turn 5. And at Seat, we cut away from Ian Skeen there as he headed down towards turn 1. There, Mickey Skoros does exactly what happened to Andre Damrat earlier in the Mustang, where he catches the edge of that grass and then finds himself in trouble. And he's put himself now 2.8 seconds away from the man on screen here. This is Toby Cyril alongside Martin van Manen in the number 1 K1 Esports car. He's fighting for 17th position, but has massively overshot the brakes there into Lakaiha. It's going to have to run it to the outside if he wants to catch Matthew Copsey in the number 13 Super Swede Ferrari ahead of him there. Round the bank to Sabadell. From the perspective of the Mustang, heading down through the RACC chicane, I'm surprised he can see the curbs over that monstrous bonnet that contains the 5.4 litre M Sport co-engineered V8 engine. Largest of its kind now when it comes to engines in GT. I think previous title, you had a few of those definite contenders for the largest engine. I think Dodge had amongst some of the largest engines with its Viper back in the day. We're now halfway into the race then, so let's have a look at where our current running order is. Brendan Roos leads by 6.2 seconds to MSA's Matteo Mastromaro. Chris Farish rounds out the podium positions in the All-American lineup of the number 789 with exclusive. Andre Damrat and teammate Milo Bergman are still fighting inside that top 5. We just saw a bit of oversteer there from Matthew Copsey as we're still seeing the battle for 17th position between Cyril and Copsey. We'll keep reading the order down. Marcus Carlos routing out the top 5 and looking to keep the ball rolling here for the MSA. Number 414 now in the position of the championship lead out of round 2. Gabor Okner in the number 45. Number 45, that says number 46, and it's actually the 666. The 666 ACC Hungary car is in 6th position ahead of Elmas Mikkelsons, who's yet to take a proper pit stop in the 788 exclusive. He's ahead of Jack Giles in the 315 and Gianluca Zamponi in the 787. Rounding out the top 10, the 969 of Ian Skeen. Sebastian Turner with NRW Performances in 11th position ahead of Tyler Vermack and John Williams. Matthew Williams in 14th with Sander Verstecke rounding out the top 15. Kelman Cast in 16th. We see the battle right now, 17th and 18th. Leading ahead there, that's Matthew Copsey in 17th. The Mustang on screen is Toby Cyril in 18th position. Mickey Skoros was briefly in the fight for it. He's down in 19th at the time. Rounding out the top 20 is James Mason in the 114 K1 Mercedes. David Beams 21st ahead of Kieran Rodd. Patrick Leger and Martin Pesty round out the top 24 positions. That just gives you an indication of what's going on this field at the moment. We do want to try and check back in on the battle of Zamponi v Skeen, but right now our focus is on the battle of Cyril v Copsey. The Mustang to the inside here. Copsey was vulnerable in that last lap. There's a bit of wheel banging there out through turn 1 in Elf. He has to go over the rumble curbs. And he's not going to be happy there with Toby Cyril. But out through Renault goes the Mustang now through turn 3. And also see a bit of traffic backlogging here. Vermack and Williams separated by the car in seconds. That's Matteo Mastromaro making his way through in that green and grey McLaren. Andre Damrat 1.3 seconds from Chris Farish. You can see there the purple McLaren escaping his view up through turn 11 and 12. Things starting to get closer and closer. This is what we've been waiting for in that second stint. That's Matthew Copsey there, just briefly as we caught on with Mickey Skoros. Copsey around at turn 5. I think maybe he's done the exact same thing we saw a few drivers do before. He's caught the grass on the far right-hand side and spun it around before he's got to the apex there. We're 50 laps in. Things have gone from bad to worse there for Copsey on his stint. He now falls into the iron sights of James Mason at the back of that top 20. This is Kelvin Castens, who's hunting down Sander Verstecke. They're just escaping his sight through turn 16 at New Holland. Martin Pesty at the back of the field there. I believe it was a disconnect and then reconnect, which would explain why his car looks massively different from when it did at the race start. Here's Copsey as well, now under siege by James Mason in the 114 K1 Mercedes. Something has gone wrong for Copsey. Just can't seem to keep that Ferrari pointing in a straight line. I think the heat has really got to the tyres there on the Super Swede. And something is direly wrong. As over the course of this stint, it has been a fight more against the machine than it has been against his fellow drivers. Having a look around the field here, let's see what's going on then. The battle of Zamponi v Skeen. We caught them just now, the leading of the two. Gianluca Zamponi in the 787. See, in that last lap, he was a tenth faster than Skeen. About a tenth and 500ths there, to be precise. Heading down into turn 1 we go. I'd say very much so this is still the battle of 9th position we're talking about here. Heading down into Repsol. They're actually caught up a car ahead of them there. As falling closer into frame, something has gone wrong for the 315 of Jack Giles, who's now quickly made this what was the battle of 9th, could very soon become the battle of 8th position. Right now, though, will stay as the battle of 9th. Skeen and Zamponi are closer to each other than Zamponi is to Giles. That's when we'll consider it the battle of 8th position as we head up through turn 7 and 8 here at Worth Corner, as we head up towards Campsa here in the middle sector. You see just a little dab on the brakes there in the Aston Martin. It's got a lot of momentum to carry around that corner. That's actually been good enough to keep him just within a second in tow there to Gianluca Zamponi. The tyres are starting to fall away for that Aston Martin, and they're starting to pick up for that McLaren. So absolutely consider this the battle of 8th position now. As you can see, he's getting closer and closer. It's really hard to call it at this time because now he's in equal distances. Now I'd say yes, this is the battle of 8th position between Giles and Zamponi. Giles is going to have to go onto the defensive very, very soon. We'll try and catch on board then. Oh, perfect. You scroll once and you're right on with it there. Number 315, Euro Titans Jack Giles and Chris Davies. So you can see now the gap at 0.6 of a second between Zamponi and Giles. Absolutely consider this now the battle of 8th position. What can Gianluca Zamponi do compared to Jack Giles here? The battle of the McLarens as Ian Skeen now becomes more or less a spectator to it as he keeps dropping behind there. 1.9 seconds off from his teammate in Euro Titans. See now what can Giles do with the careening Zamponi heading up the back end of this battle here for 8th. Heading out through Lokaia. You can see now that Zamponi, though,
was trying to stay within the toe. Jack Giles was breaking the toe. Zamponi's now in the slipstream. Gaining. Is he going to try go for the inside here at Elf Corner? He's backed out of it there. He's going to try and let the McLaren ahead of him run to the defensive, hoping he'll compromise on his line before we get to Renault. But he's staying ahead. Now as we enter turn 3, there was the attempt there made by Gianluca Zamponi, but he backed out of it. Better judgment there by the Italian as we head down into turn 4 at Repsol. Is he going to be trying for the inside there? No, he's going to let Giles run himself through again. I can see the sort of the inklings of what he's trying to do here. He's trying to get that car in front of him to keep lunging for the inside. Keep trying to defend. He's going to burn his tyres out that way. These two very much so in understanding of their machines, so they'll know exactly what the limits of them are. Heading into a very tough section of the track here. Turns 7 and 8. Worth Corner, which has caught quite a few drivers out here just because it knocks the suspension there on the right-hand side as you exit the corner. Now through Campsa. Skeen is catching up, I must say. So all of this battling could be a deliberate effort by Giles here to stop Zamponi from having that inside line. Also that the Aston Martin, which is yet to have took a valid pit stop, can still strike at the McLaren here. But for how much longer can Jack Giles keep that performance up? As Gianluca Zamponi is growing impatient as we head around the Bank de Sabadell at turn 12, heading down to the RACC chicane we go. Not expecting a move in just yet, but we could have some upset from the suspension here on these very twitchy McLarens, especially in the blistering heat here in Barcelona. Out through turn 16 we go. The Aston Martin is massively back in this fight now. You can see in the rear view, the Aston's closer to Zamponi than Zamponi is to Giles. It's a three-way fight now for 8th position. It could be for 9th, it could be for 8th. It's up in the air as to where it will go. Skeen looking for the inside at the moment. Isn't going to go all the way to the inside because there was the inklings of it being 3 abreast. Giles goes across the track though, so that could be a free position up for Gianluca Zamponi, and that it is. Skeen's going to follow through though. He's up into 9th position. The Aston Martin trying to strike back here at the McLaren. Round Repsol we go. Things have massively livened up here at the back of the top 10. The battle of 8th position. Zamponi now having to take a defensive position here as Skeen is massively livening up the rear tyres of that Aston. Where he was struggling for grip earlier on. He's massively... I need to stop making that word a common theme here. He has properly woke the rear tyres up. Heading around Campsa we go then. That gap is getting smaller and smaller. What can the McLaren do in a straight line there? Not an awful lot with the Aston Martin tucked away in its slipstream. The question remains though, is it going to be vulnerable heading down towards turn 1 with Skeen this close at the moment? All Skeen has to do is keep inside that magic ratio, that 0.3 or below mark, if he wants to be within a shot of a lunge to the inside as we head to Elf Corner on lap 56. So let's see if we can go on board with the Aston of Ian Skeen here. You see, he was quite some way away though. He lost a lot of time through the RACC chicane and then through New Holland at turn 16. He's now 0.6 of a second away from Gianluca Zamponi's exclusive McLaren. He's gained some of that time back before we've hit Elf Corner, but not enough to be eyeing him up for position just yet. We come through Renault Corner, now into turn 3. And that's kind of quickly diluted there, that fight between Zamponi and Skeen. It's going to take a long lunge here from the Aston Martin to put himself right in the high pressure situation he was in last lap going. Half a second, the dividing factor between Zamponi and Skeen. So heading down into Worth, 0.7 of a second. So you can see that Zamponi is starting to warm up here. That McLaren's starting to come into its prime. The tyres are starting to work to the benefit of the Italian driver. It was quite hard to get some of the life coaxed into those Pirellis for some time. But now it's really coming alive there for the 787. Much to the chagrin of Ian Skeen in the 696. Still running what appear to be older tyres, but he's giving it a very royal go in the Aston Martin. catch up with them in a moment's time. I want to just take a look around the field here to see what else is going on. Tyler Vermack approaching traffic here. Farish and Damrat are incredibly close to one another here. Farish is in second, Damrat is in third, hunting down that McLaren. We'll see what Damrat can do then. So this is for the fight of second position. We're watching with the perspective of the trailing car. NLR Esports number 5 of Andre Damrat in the Mustang. Leading him ahead there is Chris Farish in the 789, the purple McLaren of Exclusive Esports. And this was a battle that fell apart some time ago, has picked back up very recently. We're glad to have caught it here right as it appears to boil over. Heading through turn 12 we go. These two are very, very close to one another. He needs to be in that magic ratio though. 0.3 of a second is the ideal gap for the Mustang. He can gain quite a lot of time down those straights. He's trying everything he can here. He's going to demolish the curbs there. So I thought. Through the RACC chicane, out through New Holland at turn 16. But he's outside of it. He's 0.7 of a second away. So unless he can pull absolute drag racer level speed here, he's just not going to be in the right place at the right time. Though he was, I think, 0.3 of a second faster in that last lap, it's just not enough. They're ever closer to one another. But are they battling? That is the real conundrum here. Like I said before, there's a difference between being close to each other and battling. Right now, though, I wouldn't say this is the battle for the second place just yet. He's not in closing range. He's very, very close. Very, very close. Make no mistake of that. But not battling. Not yet. We'll see where these two end up in a few laps' time. Or a few minutes' time will probably be the better assessment. Mickey Skaros then with Matthew Copsey and James Mason for company there. 17th through 19th position. All about a second from one another there. Kelvin Castins, 4.3 seconds in the next position up. He's in a lonely drive in P14. Kieran Rod and Patrick Leger very close to each other for 21st position. The Academy car for Euro Titans up against the False Group Esports Privateer team in the 296. Here's Copsey, middle of the 3-car battle we just spoke of there. Has got a lot on his hand here to make up for in 18th position. 1 hour and 15 minutes left to go. Marcus Carlos in a comfortable 4th position. 21 seconds up the field from the car in 5th. Gabor Okna in the 666 ACC Hungary BMW. Sebastian Turner, last of the top 10 positions there for NRW Performance. And the Privateers is doing very, very nicely. See though, Leger is on Rod. And he is about to take 21st position. Heading down into turn 1 we go. It's been a brilliant send already by the Ferrari. The Rod is trying to cover him off in the BMW. It's forced him there out wide at Renault. He's still to the inside at turn 3. You can see right behind him. That's Jussi Virolainen in the Northern Lights number 71. It's nearly 3 abreast. It is 3 abreast through turn 3. Jussi Virolainen serves both of them. A double overtake by the Finnish driver. The 71 up in the 21st has took both of them by shock. Brilliant stuff there by Jussi Virolainen. Very daring stuff. He licked the stamp and said he saw the opportunity be presented before him and took prime example of what to do in a heated battle like that. This is exactly what drivers fear when they get into a 2-car battle. Is a third party coming in and blitzing both of them. What a send then by Jussi Virolainen. And the Northern Lights car, of course, his first race outside of the MSA group alongside David Beam. It's not been the best of races for him. Of course, he's ran into a fair share of trouble over the course of the last hour and a half. But he's made do with what he's got. And he's shown that his position may be down, but his spirits are certainly anything but. With a move like that, that is brilliant. He's up in the 20th. Brendan Roos leading this race. It has been oh so comfortable for Tempest Motorsports. It's just been keep your nose down, keep a clean line, keep those times coming. And it looks to be gold at the moment. The winning formula for an unexpected turn of events to put Tempest at that front row. It's been brilliant performance all round and a very, very well crafted drive so far. We've still an hour and 13 minutes left to go. He's hoping for the best of the current race leader here in round 3. Zamponi v Skeen still close to one another here for the battle of 8th position. Yet to be in striking distance. Skeen is eagerly waiting for a mistake here out of the McLaren in front of him, especially as they start to approach another battle. This is for 17th position. Copsey v Skaros v Mason. And this could boil over into something rather nasty here. Rarely is it a case where things get awfully graceful when two battles collide, especially on separate lengths of the race from one another. You can see in the Battle of Farish v Damrat, that's quickly diluted itself. Again, that's now out to a second and a half between the McLaren and the Mustang. So we'll actually go and find that three-car battle we saw earlier on. Down in 17th for the moment. That's Matthew Copsey. Further behind him, James Mason and Mickey Skoros is now going to be quickly joined by Gianluca Zamponi. So let's try and go on board with the car in the middle here. The number 45 Spontaneous Racing BMW of Nick Mashk and Mickey Skoros. The Emirati driver making his debut here in round 3. Has got his hands full with James Mason of K1 Esports in the 114 car behind him, and very quickly approaching is the battle of 7th position between Gianluca Zamponi and Ian Skeen. So two battles collide here. Who yields first? Because Skoros doesn't want to lose any more positions now, especially with damage to contend with on that BMW. Mason doesn't want to yield either. But I think whether they want to or not isn't a question. Mason's already yielded and is going to be hoping that something goes sour when Zamponi catches up to Skoros and Copsey, which is happening at a rate of knots at the moment. That McLaren is absolutely flying. It's on the warpath to lap here. And out of turn 5 at Seat, Zamponi's gone around the outside. That's been probably as graceful as it's going to get here between these two. So Mickey Skoros tucking in behind, looks to be following the line of Zamponi here. That could actually work to his benefit to bring him closer to the car ahead, that being Matthew Copsey. See what is going on then on the field at the moment. There appears to be the inklings of a potential battle on the horizon here. Actually, let's quickly catch what's going on here, because I think I can see someone who is very, very close to one another. Here we are. The battle of John Williams and Tyler Vermack. Aston v Mustang here as we exit Repsol corner down towards Seat. We'll watch on board then. The battle of 12. Going to the inside goes John Williams. Is there slight contact? Yes, there is a bit of wheel banging there. Very rough and ready stuff between the front engine cars. That mid-engine Ferrari there, Matthew Williams behind him, is going to be looking to take that spot if these two keep getting any more handsy when it comes to those corners. That was a very risky lunge there by John Williams. I think he forgot he was driving a GT car for a second there. That's something you'd see in a Grand Prix. But he's done well to keep it only minor contacts, but I don't think he'll be making such risky moves like that again, especially with so much to play for here. This is just at the back of the top 10 positions. They're fighting just outside of it for 11th at the moment. Tyler Vermack holding on to 11th. John Williams, Matthew Williams, both FGE cars here. Fatch GT Esports hunting him down. So let's actually see if we can go on board the perspective of the leading car, this three-car battle. Tyler Vermack in the number 314. Of course, we saw his teammate earlier on, Alan Alexander, who had a very good go of things in the opening stint. Now, as we come towards the end of the second stint, things are starting to rear up again. Two Fatch GT Esports cars versus one Euro Titans. How do things play out here for 11th position as we head down the opening straight towards turn 1 we go? At Elf, then to Renault, then to turn 3. See, the Aston is all over the back end of that Mustang, is looking to go around the outside, then to make it to the inside, but he has to back off. You can see that all of this pushing and shoving is going to invite the number 6 of Kelvin Castens in very, very shortly. That's another front-engine heavyweight car to add to the mix here. Already two of them, the Aston and the Mustang, but Vermack has gone wide at Repsol. That's going to allow Williams through. Is Williams too going to be able to follow him? The battle of the Williamses, as it were, heading down into Seat. Williams ahead, but Williams behind. Vermack in a very precarious situation, let's put it bluntly. Let's see if we can go on board the car trailing this pack then. Kelvin Castens, the number 6 with NLR Esports, has got the best seat in the house for the view of this battle ahead of him. 2 FGEs and 1 ETE for good company. Makes another official team to enter the fray here for the battle of 11th place. You can see up the order there, the Aston Martin trying to break the toe of the Mustang. The Ferrari trying to get on the inside of the Mustang there, has to back off. That's Matthew Williams taking better initiative there as we head through Lakaiha at turn 10. Then to turn 11, there's contact there between the Mustang and the Ferrari. Matthew Williams stopping there towards the side of the road. He wants to let Tyler Vermack get around him. That has gone quite badly wrong there between the 314 and the 123. But what it has done is giving Kelvin Castens a free 2 positions there. He's not even had to fight for those. Up to 12th. will be next in line to challenge John Williams in the 23 Aston Martin for 11th position. Kieran Rodd into the pit lane then here. First of our runners for that second stint. I think a lot of these drivers that have yet to have took a pit stop have been doing so on purpose. Yes, they've took a pit stop. They've not taken the full pit stop. Ian Skeen has a drive-through penalty though. So that puts a massive hamper on his race results today. He's got an hour and 7 minutes to make up for that. And he's also got an extra pit stop to do anyway before he's completed his mandated pit stop to swap over for Hayden Puttock. So could this go from bad to worse for the 696? Only time will tell. At the moment we're on board with Sebastian Turner there, getting a little bit wide over turn 9. Just looking to see where our next battles are coming from here. Things starting to settle down, as it were, here as we get towards another strategy-intensive phase of this race. Castons and Williams, though, very, very close to one another. So we'll stay on board with that. The saga of the P11 battle, which has been soaked thus far in the blood of all who have fought for it, as we head down to turn 10, continues to race on. Currently defending then the 23 of John Williams alongside Levi Warner, the Fats GT Aston Martin. Fighting for their position then Jan Bettentrup and Kelvin Castons in the number 6 NLR Esports BMW right behind them. So heading down into the RACC chicane. The question is, this close to the end of a stint, who's going to pull the trigger first and come into that pit lane? It's a very short run out of this corner, so very easy to spot when it's going to happen, but neither of them taking that initiative here. They've still got 5 minutes left in this hour before they even think about a pit stop. That's easily 2 laps. You can see of the two, Castons was 2 seconds faster, about 1.2 actually seconds faster. He's to the inside of Williams as we head down into Elf. Takes this position pretty much for ransom there through turn 1 as we exit Renault at turn 2. There's nowhere that Williams can go but hang on to the back of Castons here through turn 3 and try his luck at turn 4. But you can see the Aston Martin is starting to run wide in this long sweeping right-hander. It may just be too far away to eye up a move through Repsol. Is he going to try his luck with the kind of ambitious lunges he was making down at Seat a few laps ago? We'll see. No, not this time around. A much more conservative drive here after losing position for John Williams. Toby Cyril, 16th at the moment, has made a few positions up for K1 Esports, but their championship run is at stake here. They were sitting quite comfortably in 4th in the championship, right behind the 2 sparring XCL cars in 2nd and 3rd that were joint on points. It seems like there's going to be another massive shake-up of the standings going into round 4 at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps next month for the 6 hours of Spa. Tyler Vermack close to Matthew Williams at the moment. The Mustang still trying to try for position on the Ferrari. You can see it's just losing time by the bucketful here in the 3rd sector where the Ferrari has got so much more advantage. It's got better rotation than the Mustang. So when push comes to shove and those tyres start to give, the Ferrari just has a little bit more life in it, just thanks to that closer centre of gravity and centre of rotation that these mid-engine cars provide. It's what makes them such a popular choice, is that heightened manoeuvrability even when the tyres mechanically can't give you that much grip. Gabor Ochner there, with Toby Cyril trying to unlap himself in that Mustang. Heading out through turn 16 we go. So having a look around the field, things quieting down then. We had quite a few battles there in the 2nd stint, but now as we come towards the end, most drivers now primarily focused on just getting the car into the pits, making sure the tyres are okay, not making any silly mistakes and sticking to an average pace here to line everything up as everything's going to come back together for that 3rd and final. Oh, that's trouble for Sebastian Turner. Got very friendly over the curbs there. Get a replay of that. He's come round the Bank de Sabadell. Very long right-hander. He's gotten onto the curbs right about there. You can see grabs his front right, snags the car around. That could have ended in disaster for Turner though, but he's still going. Brendan Roos, the leading car, looking to lap the number 777 here with NRW Performance. Sander Verstappen here in P15. 7 seconds up the field from Toby Cyril. Jussi Virolainen, we saw that legendary move out of him in this section of the track here. But sadly, no one around for him to play with in P20. Made the most of what has been an unfortunate start to a race for the Northern Lights racing team, but if this is any an indication, expect more out of them if they stay in this championship, as there is definitely great potential out of Beam and Virolainen in the 71 car. Well, here's our race leader then, Tempest Motorsports' Brendan Roos. That number 30 has been unstoppable. Who would have thought then that after 2 rounds of official team domination out of MSA and NLR that we would see a privateer team take to the ranks, and take to the ranks by absolute storm. It's been an iron grip rule by Tempest Motorsports here in round 3, and they have gone unrivaled as far as things go, were it not for the fact that the exclusive cars stayed out and inherited that race lead. The Tempest Motorsport car would have led every single lap, meaning Roos and Saunders would have been on for a Grand Slam, which is unheard of in GT racing, especially in an endurance race. Actually, that may not have been the case, because let's check their practice times. In free practice, it was actually Tyler Vermack and Alan Alexander fastest out of free practice, then in qualifying. So sadly, it wouldn't apply to be a Grand Slam. You have to lead every practice session, then qualifying, then every lap of the race. But they've gotten very, very close. That's not to discredit what they have done so far. We'll catch up with them later on. We're heading on towards some of the last pit stops of the day. We're seeing here Elmas Mikkelsen's fight Gabor Okner in the 666 ACC Hungary car for 5th position. We'll see then what Mikkelsen's can do in the 788 McLaren. Watching the helmet cam view here from Mikkelsen's perspective as we head down into one of the toughest sections of the track, the RACC chicane. You can see Kieran Rodd there leaping over the sausage curb there on the second half of that chicane. Turns 14 and 15. Now through turn 16 we go. Okner's got better straight line speed. Moreover, he's in the slipstream of an even faster car, the Mustang of Toby Cyril. So he is going to absolutely slingshot that BMW, but also riding in the wake of it is Elmas Mikkelsen's. He's going to be accelerated to hyperspeed at this rate, riding in the wake of 2 of the fastest cars in circulation. So heading out through turn 3 we go. Okner is under siege. 3/10 of a second is the gap at the moment. You can see riding in the dirty air is not doing Mikkelsen's many favours. He's picking up some of those road marbles on the edge of the track. The tyres are starting to give way here. We're just under an hour left in this race, and they'll be expected a pit stop very soon. As a matter of fact, it is a lively pit lane already. We can see the 315 has come into the pits, joining them in the pit lane as well. We're going to look on the overlays here. The 315 Jack Giles in the pits. So too is Matthew Copsey in the number 13. And they'll be joined by several others towards the end of this race here. We're among the last scheduled pit stops for today. There's a 2-stop race anticipated. We'll see what all of these drivers will do and what their standings will look like once all of these things have been said and done, let's say. You saw there a bit of ambition out of Gabor Okner. He was almost looking to lunge on the inside of Toby Cyril in the lapped Mustang. So we must consider that, yes, Okner has command here of 5th against Mikkelsen's, but he is in traffic, which is not really good for anyone. You see Mikkelsen's trying it though for the inside at turn 14. Mikkelsen's lunges for it at the RACC chicane. That's the virtue then for Okner to dive for the pit lane. What a sudden move there. He's had enough. Sudden death, he calls it there, into turn 14. Then turn 15. Elmas Mikkelsen's is done waiting. Now up into 5th position. That makes 4th now as he passes a car in the pit lane. We must consider Exclusive Esports ran a long pit strategy last race, and look where it got them at the end of that race. Yeah, they're 2nd and 3rd in the championship, but they still lost the race. Admittedly, they didn't have rain to contend with, but they've got blistering heat instead. So Brendan Roos still leads this race. Chris Farish with exclusive is now second as Marcus Carlos has gone into the pit lane. Andre Damrat makes third because of that pit lane run. Elmas Mikkelsen's now up to fourth with Carlos exiting the pits. Gabor Ochner in the pits awaiting a driver swap there in the ACC Hungary car. It has been a very quiet talk of the driver of the day. Brendan Roos now makes the pit lane. So a very lively pit lane on the horizon here. The race leader is in. What is Chris Farish going to do then? He's also going for the pit lane. So what's Andre Damrat going to do is the next question involved. He's going for the pit lane as well. So all three of our leading cars are in the pits. Next up in those positions to inherit. If we scroll across here, we're looking for the car in fourth position. That's Elmas Mikkelsen's, who's halfway around the track at the moment, heading down into turn 10. Mikkelsen's has yet to take a pit stop himself. So what is the strategy? Well, a valid pit stop, I should say, himself. So what is the strategy going forward? Especially with him yet to have swapped to his teammate in the 788, Nat Bennett. So heading out of turn 14 and 15, the RACC chicane here, a now defunct section of the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, was replaced a few years ago in favour of the MotoGP layout at turn 14, where you just go around the long way of the track. You see, Mikkelsen's, by virtue of staying out, now leads this race, but is yet to take a run to the pit stop. They like this strange strategy, and honestly, it's become a staple of Exclusive's performances. They've had very good pace across the board. They've had to really roll with the punches today. They've not had the best of starts by all. I've just seen in the chats there from Fatch GT. My co-driver said you've been trash talking my dive bomb on the Mustang. You are totally correct. That was a horrendous decision. Well, at the end of the day, I know exactly which incident you're referring to. At the end of the day, you are racing. You're going to make mistakes in a race. No race is flawless. So, to be completely honest, that's like the most minor of issues, I think. Trash talking, maybe it's a bit coarse, but yeah, I see the point you're coming across from there. Just staying on board at the moment, the race lead, Elmas Mikkelsen's. About that incident, it's very minor. As far as things have gone, there have been worse incidents going on in this race. So we stay on board with Elmas Mikkelsen's. Ahead of him there, Martin Pesty. So things quieting down here in the sort of cold war that it is brewing with all of these post-pit stop races going on now. We can see Jack Giles and Sander Verstappen very close to one another. Euro Titans and Fatch GT looking to duke things out for P10. That's going to climb a few positions fairly soon. We can see that the top 10 is starting to form up here. Zambi Driver in 9th, Kelvin Castens in 8th, David Urban in 7th. Parker Sukup in 3rd, David Silf in 4th, Sebastian Turner in 5th. Then looking up towards our front row, Brendan Roos in 2nd, Elmas Mikkelsen's yet to have pitted. Actually, he has swaps now. One of the cars has at least swapped. The number 5 there is Louis Baptiste. So we hadn't seen him all race. We were kind of up in arms as to whether or not he was going to be in the race. But there he is. That's Louis Baptiste in the number 5, currently in 6th. 0.4 of a second away from Sebastian Turner, who's just gone into the pits there and has now gained 5th position. David Urban will be gaining a free position for his efforts there after already having that run into the pit stop before Gabor Ochner handed over to his teammate for the last run of today. Vicky Skoros into the pits there to hand back over to Nick Mashk in the number 45 Spontaneous. It's a very lively pit lane yet again, the sort of second half of our final pit stops. So we've been told as well. Verstappen in the 223 still has one more pit stop left in the bookings here. So from back in 10th position, he's going to do his best to battle against Jack Giles, but knows his time is coming. Kelvin Castens here in the number 6 has gained a few positions up to 7th now, 7.5 seconds away from David Urban. Here's David Silf, the number 414, 12.5 seconds away from Parker Sukup. But really what most of us are wondering at this time, as we see Sander Verstappen slowing down for the pit lane run now. Jack Giles has already gotten ahead of him there into P10. He goes. Toby Cyril joining him from the pit lane as well. So a big shake-up on the horizon. Jörg Masserat's cleared for release from the pit lane. Our main wonder at the moment is what is going to go on here. 52 minutes against the clock. Elmas Mikkelsens is yet to pit, and he's 2.5, well, yet to valid pit, and he's 2.5 seconds ahead of the then leading car, Brendan Roos, on brand new tyres. We thought he would have handed it back over to Saunders, but clearly Roos feels confident enough to run the next 52 minutes by himself to the checkered flag. We'll see if that strategy withholds then at the number 30 Tempest Motorsports paddock. Right now, he's got Woodgate for company, trying to lap the car in 17th position. Doesn't want to really be held up any longer. All of this is giving Mikkelsens extra breathing space, which he wants him to have absolutely none of. He wants to get that McLaren before it ever thinks about touching a pit lane. So heading up through turns 7 and 8 we go. Watching the helmet cam here, Brendan Roos currently in 2nd position. Down into the RACC chicane we go then. See, that Ferrari is just right where he doesn't want it to be at the moment. He wants to get that super sweet Ferrari off his nose as soon as possible here. This will be the best opportunity for him to do so. Woodgate giving a little bit of extra toe there, but Mikkelsens is into the pit lane. So back into the lead of the race goes Tempest Motorsports' Brendan Roos. Elmas Mikkelsens now in for the last pit stop of the day here in the number 788. There's a lot at stake here for XCL. Of course, they've managed to stay ahead for some time ahead of their rivals in the 414, but they're going to lose out here with David Silf going up ahead of them. The 789, which is some way down the standings, is ahead of Silf himself, but it's just not been easy by any stretch of the imagination for the remainder of XCL to try and hold on to their positions. A big shake-up in their lineup. The only driver who stayed in their original position, I believe, is Elmas Mikkelsens in the 788, who's been in that position all 3 races. So we see here Parker Sukup in the 789. If we want to pull up the standings real quick, you can see that it's a tie. It is a 2-way tie in 2nd place between the 788 and the 787. The 789 is quite a few positions down the order. It's still in the top 10 if memory preserves correctly, but it is going to be an interesting run heading into one of the longest rounds of the championship in February to see where the pieces fall into place here for the rest of XCL. They've had a very tightly run ship for the last 2 rounds, but things appear to be coming apart a little bit. It's not been the best of races for them today, and it's going to take a very long shot for them to take the gold today. I think this is all about points preservation. You can see there the 789 at the top of your screen, 9th in the championship with 53 points, some way away from the front row at the moment, with only 49.5 minutes left to go. We'll see what they can do here. They're picking up the pieces on what has been a round to forget. See here, more of the Thatch GT cars. This is for 12th position. 1.5 seconds right now divides Niels Bassler from Levi Warner. I don't really imagine there's going to be too much of a fight going on there between teammates. At the moment, I think the best idea is they're going to try and surf each other's line to try and get themselves closer to the car in 11th position. I mean, having a look around the field, we'll see how wide is that gap really at the moment between 11th and 12th. It's about 12, 13.5 seconds. So not impossible, but it's going to take quite some heroic drive there. So we'll see what they can do towards the end of this race. 3.5 seconds and dropping is the gap between Nick Mask and Jussi Virolainen. The Spontaneous and the Northern Lights cars separated by what is now just dropped under a 3-second gap here for 19th position. There's been a lot to talk about towards the back of the top 20 today. I will point that out. It's been a bloodbath towards the opening half of this race. There's been 5-car battles, stuff that we've never seen before, or the likes of on TRTM. We've seen plenty of good battles, but it's mostly been about 3, maybe 4 cars. 5 or 6 was our top end of that. That is truly something to behold. Ben Woodgate Just trying to unlap himself from Jörg Masserat. You can see sliding around turn 13 though. He's really been pushing that Ferrari. He doesn't want to really push it too hard now, considering every time he does, that gap starts to drop between himself and Scott Milbank in the 114 car behind him in 18th. David Silf at the moment in 3rd. A little bit of trouble there through the bank to Sabadell at turn 12. Well, for the 414, they're still in a very comfortable position to continue their lead of the championship. That has been their aim through this round. I don't know if their aim necessarily was to try and win the race. Of course, most teams it is. Being realistic here, their primary goal is just make sure we're ahead of the 788 and the 787 at all costs. The 789 is so far behind at the moment that it can't lay too much of a dent by having a slight points gain on us in this round. I'm sure that's what the rationale could be going on in the MSA paddock there. But for Silf, Twadok and Carlos, it has been a very respectable race. They'll be coming home with a podium by the looks of things here in the next 3/4 of an hour's time. By no stretch of the imagination has it been one easily fought for them. They're working with the best they've got here. You kind of play the hand you're dealt in most of these races, as so many different things can and will happen. I mean, we saw how unpredictable the end of last round was. We saw how unpredictable this round has been thus far. I think that's part of the beauty of endurance racing here in the console endurance series is, and with any endurance series that we've covered here on TRTN, it's just how unexpected a lot of the turns in the story of this race can be. Have a look around the field again. 1.5 seconds and dropping between Levi Warner and Niels Baslier as they're slowly trying to reel in the car in 11th, Kelvin Castens in the number 6. See here, close to what looks to be a battle, but on completely different stretches of the race. 3 cars on 3 completely different areas of the grid. 5th, 14th and 21st. That is very, very peculiar indeed. Nat Bennett seemingly defending from the 14th place Mustang of Tyler Vermack. Well, I suppose when in Rome, you know, we've got very little races for position at this area of the track. They may as well have a little bit of fun. I mean, I'm sure one of the drivers is going to get very upset about it anyway. Who knows? Who knows? We've seen it before. We have seen it before. Jussi Virolainen looking to unlap himself from Louis Baptiste, who himself is trying to lap Nick Mashk. So a battle for 19th position interceded by the car in 4th. Could throw a few wrenches in the works here, as it's accidentally giving Virolainen basically a free tow down the opening straight. You can see that Mustang just starting to peel away. How much more extra straight line speed it's got on the McLarens. But then we'll watch as we head down into turn 1 and 2, where the mid-engine McLaren just claws so much of that distance back. For Virolainen, he's trying to see what's going on here. The situation going on in front of him could net him a free position. He just needs to play his cards right. For the Northern Lights team, I think their opportunity is coming up very quickly there into turn 4, but he's just been closed off by Nick Mashk in the 45. So now as we head down into turn 5, what can the Northern Lights racing team do in that number 71 car? Jussi Virolainen fighting Nick Mashk for 19th position here. 44 minutes to go before the end of round 3. It has been a fantastic round, I must say. And speaking of this round, of course, we feel the need to mention again that this round and the coverage of today's racing session has been sponsored by Maloir Transport. You can find them at www.maloir-transport.ca. They're specialists in heavy equipment, haulage, oversized cargo and logistics. They're very respected in Canada and in the province of Quebec. Give them a ring there on that website there. You'll find their contact number. Do be advised that they deal inside Canada. Caller discretion is advised. So back onto the overall timer then of this race. 43 minutes and dropping. 43 and a half now, actually. As we head into the RACC chicane, Mashk and Virolainen in contention for 19th position. This could be the wake-up call for Jussi Virolainen heading down the opening straight. He's right in the slipstream. The BMW has better straight-line speed, but there's not an awful lot he can do when he's carving a free open slot of air here for the McLaren right at his tail. He's going to have to try and play it for the inside. So Virolainen going around the outside at Elf into Renault at turn 2. There's contact there between himself and Mashk. That's going to settle things down as you head into turn 3. Virolainen back behind in 20th. What can the McLaren do? Heading out through turn 3. The BMW there is able to open the taps. Got a lot more straight line speed, a lot more momentum carried out of turn 3. Into turn 4 we go. Out through turn 4 at Repsol, down towards Seat at turn 5. Very hardly fought here between Virolainen and Mask. So back on the dash cam here of Jussi Virolainen. Number 71 McLaren with the Northern Lights Racing Team. A brand new team for round 3 after a split away from MSA. We had seen entries from the Northern Lights Racing Team before in other series that we covered, but we never got to see them on track. So this is the first for us here on TRTN to see Jussi Virolainen's privateer division take form. And it just took form quite nicely. Were it not for the fact that they ran into trouble in the early half of this race, then they'd absolutely be up in the contention of that sort of top 10, I'd say, towards the end of this race. We do have a yellow flag heading down into the RACC chicane, and that is Martin Pesty with the Poor Ralph team. Number 9, okay, currently says number 96 there, number 711 normally. And that's still going on through the RACC chicane at the moment. That's put a temporary hamper on these two's battle, and what it's actually done for Virolainen, it's made things from a bad situation to a worse one. He's actually attempted slower at the end of that last lap. We're back out to green flag conditions then before we hit Elf Corner. Last of the late breakers. Oh my goodness, there, contact. He's outbroke himself massively. What is Virolainen going to do then? He's going to let Mask back out in front of him. You see there, coming down towards turn 1. Was it the BMW braking early or was it the McLaren braking late? It's kind of hard to tell. It's such a heavy braking zone going down into turn 1 there. That's nasty work. But these two are still going. So there's some element of respect here between the pair of them. Virolainen owning up to the mess that he's made, but is adamant to overtake him the proper way. So now through turn 5, he's let Mask back out in front of him before we got to turn 3. And he's adamant to get across that BMW the right way. The proper way, as it were. It's good to see racing incidents like that handled on track. It saves the staff in NLRL a great deal of headache having to deal with racing incidents. It's also just good to see that level of sportsmanship put on display between the drivers. As depending on how far up you get in esports, sometimes you don't get that anymore. I think you see a lot of races where it's very easy for things to go toxic. But a lot of these drivers, yeah, they want to race, and they want to race hard, but they want to race fair too. You can see that this battle is boiled over into the direction of another battle, or at least the trailing pair of FGE cars of Baslier and Warner. They're going to have to try and navigate this very heated battle for 19th position. Just under 40 minutes to go then here in Barcelona. Virolainen is eyeing up Mask. He's in the slipstream. The BMW trying to break the toe here out of turn 16. Baslier is right with him. He was 4 seconds faster in that last lap because of the incident at turn 1. Virolainen, is it second time's the charm here? Down into turn 1 we go at Elf, and he's to the outside at turn 1, to the inside at turn 2. Virolainen and Mask still side by side as we hit turn 3 here. So out of Renault into turn 3, heading down to Repsol. Virolainen is to the dirty edge of the track here, marbling on those tyres, heading into turn 4, has snapped his way to the inside. Mask is going to go late on the brakes here at Repsol. So this is brilliant stuff here. A great little battle for 19th position. There's been plenty to talk about here in the latter third of this race. Niels Baslier has got a very good view of this show. But I think he probably wants to get past at some point. So he's hoping this boils over. So down into Worth here. Turns 7 and 8 before we hit Kamsa. Mask and Virolainen. A very fierce little rivalry indeed. Through Kamsa corner. Virolainen late on the brakes, but not late enough there for a move to the inside at Lakaiha. So now through Bank de Sabadell at turn 12. It just keeps going and going. I mean, you love to see battles like this, but Baslier now has had enough. He's like, right, you've had your fun. I want to have mine now. I'm going in. And he's gone in. He's got past Virolainen. Now he's going for Mask. So the question is, can Virolainen surf Baslier's line? He knows that Baslier is faster. Can he surf his line to potentially draw himself back into the fight with Mask? I think that's exactly what he's doing there. Very clever stuff. As we've got cars lapping and unlapping over the course of this final hour of racing. We're ticking down to 30 minutes left. We've got 37 minutes and 40 seconds thereabouts before the checkered flag. It has been a brilliant race all across the line here, from first all the way down to 24th. I'd say 23rd now, with only 23 cars left in the race. There has always been something to talk about. You can see Virolainen's really struggling in that third corner now, picking up so many road marbles. It can't be doing as McLaren many favours at all. See the tyres really starting to get baked here in the searing heat. Things have barely dropped temperature from the race start. The racing has been hot as the track itself here. Red hot indeed. We'll catch up with them later on. See if we can have a look around the paddock and see what other stories there are to talk about. Brendan Roos, of course, leading by 12 seconds here to Parker Sukup. Tempest Motorsports have been on the ball all race long, and they look to be taking this one to the first victory they've had in this series, and the first time a privateer team has won in the Console Endurance Series. I think the last time we saw a privateer team win in most of these endurance series held by formerly GHR, now NLRL, if we want to draw all the way back to comparisons with the spiritual successor series that this is, this is based off of, being the XEC. The last time we saw a privateer team win was back in the Nürburgring. That was IGF, a single car entry. So it's brilliant to see history repeating itself here. Tempest Motorsports, we've been able to see their drivers' handiwork over the course of the last couple of big contracts we've had here on TRTN. It is brilliant then to see things come to a head. And we'll see exactly how the cards are dealt in 36 minutes time. Actually, I want to see what's going on there. There's a big scrum of battles going down into turn 1. What on earth was going on down there? There's a lot of cars caught up in it. It's Nick Mask and Jussi Virolainen. They've now caught up Niels Bassler. You can see Levi Warner and Nat Bennett. All cars on different stretches of the race here. 3 battles become 1, whether they chose to or not. Mask is out in front of Bassler, hunting down Virolainen, who is now 1.1 seconds up the field from him. That BMW is losing time. And there you can see Bassler, Warner and Bennett. Mask is pulling over there. He wants no part in that fight. Nearly gets himself in trouble with Bennett there. Just caught in the wrong place, wrong time situation there for Nick Mask. There's a huge scrum of cars here in the middle sector now. Niels Bassler with Levi Warner for company. The 2 teammates here, the 1-2-3 and 2-3 at Fatch GT Esports. Looking around the field here, Bas PW and Martin van Manen. We just caught them here at the last second of it. Bas PW loses out and drops down to 16th position to van Manen. I think given the setbacks that they've had over the course of this race, that's right where K1 want to have their cars. They want to have the majority of them inside that top 15 good point scoring positions to set them up for the I would say the joint longest round of the championship. Zambi driver now lapping Bas PW. Will be doing the same to Martin van Manen in a moment's time. You can see as well Jörg Masserat 1.2 seconds, 1.1 now behind Jack Giles. This could be the fight for 8th position here between NRW and Euro Titans. And that gap stabilised now between Sukup and Roost, still over 12.5 seconds. Now, as 10 minutes ago we reported on that. We'll just give you every sort of 10 or so minutes an update as to what's going on in that front row. 1 second now, the gap between Masserat and Giles. We could have a battle on our hands here for 8th position. We'll just quickly take another look around here. You can see Zambi driver 20 seconds up the field from the drivers we were just speaking about. He's in a little world of his own here, looking to lap Martin van Manen. He's put himself right in the middle of the battle for 15th position. Milbank alongside Castens. There's Warner now 1.5 seconds behind his teammate, Niels Bassler. Fatch GT Aston seems to have run into a little bit of trouble there. Something wrong with the tyres. You saw a little swerve from the back end, trying to regain some of the heat there. Hayden Puttock now into the top 10 with Euro Titans. Him and Ian Skeen have had an absolute Goliath drive there from what was not the ideal qualifying they were hoping for, but they've made all of the progress necessary up in the race. Of course, no points for Saturday is the old adage about qualifying. But there will be points this Saturday considering the races on Saturday, so that doesn't really make an awful lot of sense. Tyler Vermack is in 14th position. 11, nearly 12 seconds actually from Martin van Manen. Speaking of, here is van Manen now in the top 15. It's been a good recovery drive by K1. There's been some issues there on the exit of, I believe that was Repsol, so turn 4 for the 813 car. That's the K1 Academy car. Kieran Rodd behind the wheel at the moment in 22nd. Something is amiss there. And there could be even further troubles if they don't take that mandated pit stop in the next 32 minutes. David Silf in third is going to be very, very happy with the result. Him and his teammates Marcus Carlos and Craig Twardock have been able to accrue so far. And they'll be continuing their lead of the championship should they finish in this position heading into the next round. Patrick Leger very close to Scott Milbank. Of course, two of them on completely separate lengths of the race, but that's not going to stop him from trying. No, out of camp, so he's side by side with Milbank, looking to unlap himself as we head down to Lakaiha, turn 10. You know, you can take him out of the race. You can't take the race out of him. And he definitely did give it a good go there, but got switchbacked for his efforts very late on the brakes by Leger. Not an awful lot that could have been done in that situation. So, here is the fight. And we actually caught it at the wrong time because Gilles was leading, but now Masserat is out in front. So that's our mistake for missing that one out. But the battle of 8th is very much still on the cards here. Jack Gilles, he may have been overtook, but he is not down and out of this fight. He'll be still hunting for that 8th position, but they must contend with the fact Brendan Roos is right on their tails here. And they're going to have to move over at some point. 0.8 of a second is the gap between Masserat and Gilles. Heading up towards Campsa corner here. The McLaren and the Ferrari, two of the most popular choices, of course, in modern ACC. Clashing on track for 8th position. Masserat has had a grand race with teammate Sebastian Turner. NRW will be ecstatic for another top 10 here in the Console Endurance Series. Of course, brought to you by Track Titan and Malwar Transport Incorporated. Two of the major sponsors of this series. So down towards the RACC chicane we go. Masserat and Gilles. That gap's now out to just over a second here. Gilles is going to have to consider his options when it comes to Brendan Roos, who's 0.4 of a second away from him. He'll be in the slipstream. I don't think he's going to fight it really too much here. We'll see what the sentiment is going forward. You can see that him spending time in this lapped traffic is starting to whittle away the gap that he has built up so far against Parker Sukup. That's dropped from under 12.5 to under 12 seconds. So he's really going to have to start shoving it through this crowd. He's going to have to stop being nice about it. You can see he's already gotten past Gilles. Next is Masserat. All of that time spent in the dirty air is going to do a number on his tyres. Plus, factor that in with the blisteringly hot weather today. For this round of the championship, it's going to be a bit of a dangerous one for Tempest Motorsports. They've done everything right so far, and I think the pressure is going to start getting to them maybe just a little bit here, that they need to have what is now a perfect 29 minutes of racing left on the cards here if they want that race win. Parker Sukup is a notoriously difficult customer to outrun, especially when the pressure starts to become a major factor in it. Can see at the moment another one of the exclusive cars, the 788, one of the two that were joint second in the championship, currently in 5th. This is Nat Bennett on his first drive in this championship. Has had a rather remarkable opening drive alongside teammate Elmars Mikkelson's. Currently sitting in 5th there, just under 10 seconds. It's just dropped back over 10 seconds to Louis Baptiste in the number 5 NLR Esports Mustang. So far, so good for Nat Bennett. We'll wonder whether or not we'll see him again going into Spa, as it seems to have become somewhat of a recurring theme for Exclusive for these experimental driver lineups. We noticed they changed them an awful lot. The one driver, like we mentioned before, the one driver that has stayed pretty much set put in every single race has been Elmars Mikkelson's. And it's not hard to see why. He is an excellent, excellent driver. I think it's more an availability concern if I had to take a guess as to what it is with Exclusive. Of course, they have their operations quite widespread, so sometimes it's about giving the drivers that opening drive. I think Nat Bennett is one such example. They've thrown him in on this series, see how he do, and he's done rather well, so fair play to him. The first time we've ever seen him here on TRTN, and he's already quite fast up there. We've seen Zambi Driver a few times before. I think we might have seen him back in Season 2, the XEC. He was a solid driver then, and is still a pretty solid driver now. He's definitely one of the staple names. We've not seen him drive for really many other teams. He's been around with XCL for quite some time. He's been around the block. I think he raced with Stefano Fari back in the day, actually, in the Lamborghini, back when XCL used to run the purple and green. I don't know if any of you remember that. That is quite some time ago now. Talking about sort of last year, maybe even 2 years ago now. It's been so long. But for sim racing, that's a long time. Parker Sukup, now we've definitely seen him a few times. I believe he used to race with K1 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, as well. He made the jump over to exclusive at I think it was around the time of the XEC. We've definitely seen Sukup race under a different banner before, but another one of those drivers that's easily recognisable to long-time viewers of TRTN. As he's competed before. He competed in the Sprint Series, he competed in the XEC. He's been around the block, and he's been on our radar for quite some time. So a lot of historic names by TRTN standards here in this lineup. Scott Milbank is one of the newest drivers to cross our radar, but he's been one that has been rather omnipresent this week. He's been in the Indianapolis round in VSR Phoenix on Wednesday. He's been in this race today. He'll be in tomorrow's race on Sunday, the finale of the Sunday League. And it may not have been the best race today for the 114, but they're working with the cards they've been dealt, and they're inside the top 20, which, considering they were starting towards the back of, they've already made progress, and any kind of progress is good progress. Hayden Puttock, another driver to have recently crossed our radar, is one that is quickly gaining favour with us here. We've always seen him in that Aston Martin, and is one of the more favoured drives at Euro Titans, and now joining alongside Ian Skeen, another very long-time name here in TRTN. We do have another yellow flag. That's the 813 car. I think Kieran Rodd is in trouble again. And yes, you can see they're out of Renault corner this time, and it looks like damage on board that BMW as he just rejoins there ahead of Louis Baptiste. See here, David Silf alongside teammates Marcus Carlos and Craig Twardock are going to be, like I said before, very happy with this result at the moment. But they're 13.5 seconds away from Baptiste. Right now, it's smooth sailing. Realistically, they're going to be aiming for a third by the end of this race. Just trying to see now where our next battles could be coming from, as things have really quietened down. We were hoping for a little bit more, of course, such as the nature of endurance racing, where you can have these more methodical, strategy-intensive drives that puts the crowd at arm's length here. That's the point of an endurance race. You're going to have these grandeur distances between each other than you're going to get in a 45-minute sprint race. Speaking of, do tune in tomorrow for a 45-minute sprint race that caps off what has been a fantastic series of racing in the NLRL Sunday League at the Nürburgring. Wet weather expected tomorrow. Do look forward to that. This is Zambi driver then in the 787. Spoke about him earlier. Currently 18 seconds ahead of Jörg Masserat. And speaking of, Jörg Masserat's been on our radar for some time as well. The NRW Performance name has been around since the XEC, at minimum for us. We don't know exactly when about it came into fruition. See if we can find him at the moment. That's Sylph, that's Baslier, Leger, PW, there we go, Masserat. The NRW Performance name has been around on our radar for some time, since the days of the XEC, which I'd say is probably the big breakout of TRTN as a broadcaster. This was back when we was known as TRR. And he's always crossed all right. I think it's something very likeable about the privateers. This is no disrespect to anyone who's not a privateer. There's just something very likeable about the privateers, because you have these, what you see is what you get kind of teams. It's a single car. There's no advanced driver lineups. Sometimes there's not even a strategy. They go into this and they've just got decent pace. It's some of that grassroots style of racing that makes privateer drive something very remarkable to watch, and that's the same story that's been across the board for NRW Performance and plenty other privateers that we've yet to mention. I mean, one of them is sitting right behind him right now. Tempest Motorsports has been on our radar for some time, and especially some of those drivers in there. Adam Saunders, like we mentioned earlier on in the stream, was a champion in TRI. He was the Season 4 Sprint Series champion on ACC. So he's got a background with us. We recognise the talent that he brings to the table. Same story with Brendan Roos, who's been very trusty to the team in every endeavour they've been in. So they're kind of an inseparable duo right now. And it's any surprise that good connection they've got and the solid performance they deliver on has given them what has been an utterly dominant race lead. You can see things are drawing near here. Virolainen could be looking for another battle. Virolainen's very new to us, but a name that has very quickly cemented itself into the playbooks here in TRTN. Jussi Virolainen from Finland and the number 71 Northern Lights McLaren. He's really putting on quite a solid show. He may not have had the best race starts. Definitely ran into a few issues. Oh, he's not going to be hunting down Scott Milbank anytime soon. Heading into the pits then, he'll be swapping for David Beam by the looks of things for the final 20 minutes of racing. So, back on board the leading car. Brendan Roos and Adam Saunders in the number 30 Tempest Motorsports car. This has been a real story to discuss, and hopefully we get to see the ending we've got in our minds at the moment in about 20 minutes time with these guys crossing the line first, but that gap's still sitting at 12 seconds. Here's hoping for the best. It has been a remarkable story of courage today from a privateer team up against insurmountable odds with these titan teams like Exclusive and MSA and Euro Titans in K1. You've got 4 very big labels. You've got NLR in there as well. It's another very big name, but they've got a much smaller lineup, more concentrated on 2 cars in this series. They've been up against insurmountable odds and have wowed all expectations. They were, for a while, predicted up in the top 10. You can see on our predictions there, we read them out at the start of qualifying. We were expecting to see them in and around the top 10. Brendan Roos putting a time of 1:44.452 on Simbot. And that gave us the expectation, okay, they'll be in around the back of that top 10. No, they're not wasting any time at all. There was one part of that equation we failed to factor in entirely, and that was Adam Saunders, who absolutely blitzkrieged the timing charts in qualifying. The gap was so thin at 1.8 thousandths of a second between himself and I believe at the time it was Marcus Carlos in the 4:14 during quali. But Roos has really picked up the ball and kept it rolling here because these two are very well in sync here. You can see the performance is around the same for them. Maybe qualifying isn't Roos's strong point, but consistency, I should say, certainly is. See David Beam now on the final chapter of this race in 20th position in the number 71. This is now just a valuable time for him and Virolainen to pick up some experience here in pack fighting and sort of learn the car in hot weather conditions, as they could very well face similar conditions again in Spa. We're not currently sure on what the weather is going to be looking like, but if it is another hot into wet race, like we saw a bit of a mixture of this and Suzuka, which for a 6-hour race is not unheard of, this is definitely a valuable time to start picking up some real race time data. I think that's what a lot of these teams are going to be thinking about doing, is just sort of learning. When they're down and out of the sort of top 10, a lot of the teams you tend to see experiment a little bit. We saw that back in Suzuka with those tyre choices, and we also saw out of teams up towards the front that they were making great risks. I mean, it was, I believe, one of the exclusive cars. It might have actually been this one here, the 788, that had a very risky move to stay out on those slick tyres. They thought, okay, well, with about 10 minutes left in the race, if it's going to start raining now, surely it wouldn't pick up to be critically wet by the end of the race. But as it turns out, and rather characteristically so with Japanese weather, it just dropped the heavens on Suzuka in the span of about 4 minutes. And it went from what was a relatively greasy track, okay, you've got to take it easy on the throttle, take it easy in the corners, to one that is almost impassable. You'd need a rally car to get through that at decent speed. And even then, that would struggle. So right now, Nat Bennett, 2.5 seconds from Louis Baptiste. You can see just in front of him there, we look over the dash cam of Nat Bennett, you see that little green and blue Mustang. That is the 4th position car of Louis Baptiste. So we could actually have a battle here to cap off this fantastic round of the championship. And things could get very, very interesting. Nat Bennett has had a very solid race himself alongside Elmas Mikkelsen. So too has been the story of Andrzej Damrat, Louis Baptiste and Milo Bergman. And whereabouts will the next chapter of this fantastic story of racing today take us with 18 minutes to spare? 90 laps in, we'll be over 100 laps through, I think, by the time the checkered flag drops. We're just about want to be hopeful here in this situation. As yes, Bennett is catching by a few tenths here and there every corner, but is catching. Will be in striking distance by my calculations at the moment within about 3 laps. Unless Baptiste can really pull something out of the bag here. He may be even sooner than that. So I won't call it just yet, but we are looking at the kindlings here of the battle of 4th position from the perspective of the trailing and therefore attacking car of Nat Bennett in the 788 Exclusive Esports McLaren. Down into the RACC chicane, you can see that Mustang is struggling for line. Baptiste just can't get the most out of the Mustang right now. He's dropped 6 tenths there through the chicane. He'll pick up some of that time back down the straights here. It's where the Mustang's at its strongest, is for straight line speed. But that is setting a bit of a precedent there. Nearly a second, actually I think over a second faster was Nat Bennett. The 788 as well, holding on to the fastest lap of this race, a 1:43.925 set earlier on. That is a sign of good things to come here for the 788. They're comfortable to be in the top 5. They want to put themselves as close as possible to the 414, which I believe at the time right now is up in 3rd. So this would be perfect. This is a golden opportunity for them to try and minimise some of that points loss. They'll still be behind MSA as far as they're concerned going into round 4. But they're going to be as close as they possibly can be, given that they've just not enough time here. Unless Sylph makes some critical error, they've just not enough time left in this race to make a move up to 3rd. But they can absolutely try for 4th. That is what the plan is right now, I believe, at Exclusive. Is sort of damage mitigation here. It's been a rough race for all 3 of the cars. One of them currently sitting pretty up in 2nd, I believe, at the time. Right now, that being Parker Sukup. But the 789 is down in 7th in the championship. So where some will gain, it seems the ones that are closest up the order have lost out a little bit to MSA. Just play the cards you're dealt then. But they'll get that extra point, mind you, for the fastest lap of the race. So every point counts, and we've seen how fine championship margins can come down to. I mean, take a look at example of the Sunday League. I think that's down to about 6 points in margin there. That was a bit of an interruption there. Heart in my throat there. I really thought we were about to have a disconnect. Please do not prove me wrong. Please do not prove me wrong. We've had issues with the London servers, of course, with G-Portal. Back in round 1, of course, that was cut short due to inclement weather. Around the London servers, we must consider as well, we do have a nasty storm going around in the UK at the moment. It's not out of the realm of possibility for something to go amiss. There have been power cuts, admittedly not towards the south where our servers are located, down in London. But here's hoping that they don't start getting power cuts anytime soon. That would not be the best way to cut things off. We're over 75% of the distance in, so it would still be 100% points, I believe, if I check the regulations there. But let's save the regulations for if the worst does really come to pass, because right now, this is the best thing that can happen for Nat Bennett. He's right on top of Louis Baptiste now for the control of 4th position. Heading down into Sayat. Was that a little bit of contact almost there? The cameras didn't give us the best of angle there between Baptiste and Bennett. The Mustang and the McLaren are in arms here for control of 4th position. Baptiste defending, Bennett attacking. Heading up through Worth Corner. Up to Campser. So heading down to Lakaja. He's in a very competitive form here for the last 10 or so minutes. Contact though. Oh no, it's all gone amiss there for Louis Baptiste. So we just see, we check the replay. The cameras didn't give us the greatest of angles here. I mean, we check just there. I think he's gone into the brakes and bang, there, hit the rear diffuser. Not the best of things to have happened there. I'm not sure what the decision process is going to be. 1.3 seconds is the gap between Baptiste and Bennett. Is Bennett going to consider letting Baptiste pass, or did he believe he was within his rights to be going on the brakes at that time? Did he think that maybe the Mustang had gone too early on the brakes? I think you can see, yeah, he's pulling to one side of the track here. He's actually lifting. So I think he is trying to invite the Mustang back in as a sign of apologies there. There you can see he's actually let the Mustang pass. So fair play to Nat Bennett there. And good on him for letting Baptiste back past. I think a lot of these drivers now, they're invested enough in this championship to where they want to pass each other the right way. And there's been a lot of respect, I think. In some of the incidents, at least we've seen, there's been a lot of respect there between the drivers. Unspoken level of respect. So good on him for that. And we'll see if Bennett can do things the justice this battle deserves now. Second time around. Heading down into Sayat then. He is noting now, you can see it going through Sayat. Bennett's braking earlier. He's having to try and predict Baptiste's braking pattern because he knows the Mustang is hurting at the moment. And he knows that Baptiste is taking things a little bit more conservatively here. He knows that he's still got the energy to fight, but for how much longer and how much can the car really take here with 12 minutes on the clock? And after nearly 4 hours of racing, 3 hours and 48 minutes thereabouts. This was the corner we had that incident in then in that last lap. We'll just pull the replay back up there. So it was going down into Lakai, her last lap. This was on lap 92. You can see that's where the incident occurred before. These two have kept it much cleaner this time around. So down into the RACC chicane we go. Baptiste still leading ahead from Bennett. Will he be more vulnerable on the exit of this lap than he was on the last? So heading out through turn 16 at Catalunya Corner, otherwise known as New Holland Corner. See, they're riding in the slipstream of the Mustang. What can Bennett do here as we eye up a move down into turn 1? He's too far away to be making any lunges anytime soon. He'll be waiting to see what kind of line is the Mustang taking here. And how can he get around it? How can he circumvent that line? We do have what looks to be some interesting state of affairs going on further down the line, actually further up the track. So strange little coincidences going on there. We want to try and get a look at what is going on further up the road. And we have one of the 414. So yeah, that's Silth and Caston. So it's just lapped traffic at the moment further up the track. If we look at the number 13 car, that is on sort of separate strengths of the battle at the moment. Nowhere near any of the other cars for position. So we'll stay on board this battle of position for right now in what has been already a very respectful show between Bennett and Baptiste to give us the final battle of today. So it seems 10.5 minutes to go. Bennett's still eyeing up Baptiste for a move. The Mustang has played well defensively so far. Down at the same area where we had that incident 2 laps ago. It looks to be a different story. Baptiste defending. Bennett holding off there. So now things starting to fall into play. They understand each other's game here. Heading into the third sector around the Bank de Sabadell, I should say, at turn 12. Into the RACC chicane we go again here on lap 94. So there, 10 minutes left to go. Oh, and there's more contact. More contact this time down into the RACC chicane. What on earth went on here? Was there any contact at all for that matter? But let's see. Heading down early on the brakes. Bang, there you go. Contact into turn 14. Second time going. This time Bennett's not waiting around. He's had enough of trying to be nice about it. Not sure what happened there. The cameras didn't give us the greatest of perspectives, but I'm sure Bennett's got the conviction to know who was in the right there. That's why he's kept it flat on the throttle down the opening straight. Isn't waiting around anymore. Having a look around the track here. We've got plenty of drivers close to each other, but on separate lengths of the race. Nick Mashkin, Zambi driver. Oh, contact with the 45. Heading out of turn 16. Nick Mashkin isn't happy about that one. Not at all, but not much he can do there. Just having another look around. That battle, which was closest on track, is now out to over 5 seconds in difference. Bennett is long gone now. Brennan Roos lapping Tyler Vermack, heading down to turn 1. So really no more positioned battles by the looks of it. Not ones that are close enough. You've just got a lot of navigating traffic, really, so it seems. See Masserat here playing with Vermack, going to the inside at turn 3, heading down to turn 4, has unlapped himself, or lapped, I should say, Tyler Vermack. He's not unlapped himself from Vermack. but is looking to unlap himself from Brennan Roos. Eight minutes left to go. Really not a lot left in it now. This is David Beam. He's got Ben Woodgate for company. And Bense Kiss behind him. But all on 3 different areas of the race. Hidden Patek at the back of the top 10 there for Euro Titans, is alongside Jack Giles in the standings for this race. 9th and 10th for Euro Titans. If we want to take a look at the overall run of things at the moment, of course, Roos still leading this race. 7.5 minutes left to go. Looks like it could be wrapped up with a nice bow here for Tempest. Parker Sukup with exclusive is in second in the 789 alongside Chris Farish, David Silf, Marcus Carlos and Craig Twaddock look to make this an extension of their championship lead for MSA. The number 414 still standing above the other 2 exclusive cars, 787 and 788, which are joint second on points right now. And that's one of them, Nat Bennett, in 4th position with Elmas Mikkelson's ahead of Louis Baptiste. Things slowly on the mend for NLR. They're in 5th. They're much further up the order than they were in the last race. At the end of the last race, they were 14th at the end after that collision. Right now, just on a recovery drive to 5th. They're not going to be particularly happy, I don't imagine, with what went on, the chicanery going down in the chicane, funnily enough. But I think it's just now a case for a lot of the drivers, and such is the case, a lot of teams have to just sort of play the cards they're dealt. There are a lot of teams that would have preferred to be much, much further up. There are some teams who are already elated with the performance they've had. I think, namely, one of them is the ACC Hungary team. They've had a very solid performance. They're inside the top 10. They're going to be gaining a healthy dosage of points. They may even make their way to the top 10 in the standings. So there is a lot to be hopeful for with the ACC Hungary team. I mean, same story with, NRW Performance. They've got a lot to be hopeful for as well. They're inside the pivotal top 10 points. Even though the point scoring system counts all the way down to, I think, 30 places. So everyone will be gaining points. It's just who's going to be gaining the most. Who's going to be getting the most advantage out of every race here. That's how a point system works. Levi Warner in 13th there. Niels Bassler ahead of him with Fatch GT. 2 furthest up the order, I believe, for the Fatch GT lineup. At the moment, 4 cars involved. I don't think the 323 is with us today. That might be mistaken from me. I think we've got 3 cars in this race, 4 cars in the overall lineup. But they're working with what they've got. Really not an awful lot to discuss at the moment as we get into it. I think you could probably tell now from listening in. There's not been an awful lot to engage with at the moment as we now approach a very quiet and comparatively somber run to the end of round 3, as opposed to what was the absolute cinema of round 2. Things playing a little bit safer this time round here in Barcelona, but it's going to be setting us up for one of the biggest rounds of the championship coming up, that being the 6 hours of Spa. And that's one of 2 6-hour races in this calendar. The other one is going to be the season finale race at the Nürburgring Nordschleife. So definitely a lot to look forward to. 4.5 minutes left to go. So we just keep looking around the paddock here. We can see there is one position potentially up for grabs here as that gap's starting to drop down. Is Woodgate v Bass PW for 16th position at the moment. The number 13 is gaining from what was a 6-second deficit. It's dropped below 6 seconds in the last couple of corners. We'll catch up when that gets closer, which could be fairly soon here. 3.5 minutes left to go. From Parker Sukup's perspective, I think it may just be a somber run to second place here. It'll be definitely the comeback the 789 needs at this leg of the championship. Parker Sukup will be elated with a podium. It'll be somewhat remorseful that he's missed out on the race win today. They did have an interesting, albeit very experimental strategy, one that they're best known for is that very late run to the pits. And yes, it has definitely brought a lot of their cars that were down and out at the start of the race, mind you, back into the runnings of things. So fair play to Exclusive Esports. Their strategy, unorthodox as it may be, and as confusing as it may be to this commentator, always seems to work out quite nicely in the end for them. Someone at Exclusive has definitely done their homework when it comes to just how long can these cars survive. I think that may also be leading into the fact to why a lot of Exclusive is comprised of McLaren machinery. I think there's a lot of research behind the scenes that we're not seeing that's been done into that car. That is pretty much the defining factor as to why XCL just likes the McLaren so much. I mean, that, and it's also fast. I mean, you don't need, you know, a master's degree in video game terminology to understand that this car is good. It is very good. It is mind-bogglingly good. It's why everyone and their mother has been using the McLaren. Really, you can't complain, because they made a phenomenal car. 4-litre twin-turbocharged V8 engine, 550 north of horsepower, so minimum 550, and then north of it thereafter. Carbon monocoque chassis. The thing weighs about as much as a soup ladle. It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. McLaren have really funneled all of their heritage in endurance racing over the years through Le Mans, through Can-Am, and they've funneled it into this precise needle-thin point that is the 720S. It is the culmination of decades of research. McLaren, especially in the 2010s, were massive nerds when it came to making the best possible car. I really do think they hit the nail on the head when it came to the 720S. I'm of the opinion that it is one of the best cars going. Even as a road car, it's beautiful. McLaren had a rocky start with the 12C when they brought back their road car division in the 2000s into the early 2010s, and then they just kept working at it. They had the, I think it was the 650S, the 550S, or whichever it was called. Then they had the 650S after that. They had the 675, they had the 720S. They've just evolved the same idea to the point where it's perfect. And I really do think in racing that reflects it perfectly as well, because that 720S is effectively right now, next to say like the 911, the face of GT racing. I say that with solemn conviction, that the 720S is among the most iconic cars in GT racing, just because of how brutally it has taken competition by storm, both in the virtual world and in the real world. It is an omnipresent figure of GT racing. But now, as we claw down to the final 10 seconds of racing here, we'll just have enough in the tank for one more lap out of the race leader here. Tempest Motorsports' Brendan Roos. So we are on that final lap of racing now. It has been, bar none, an exemplary drive today from Tempest Motorsport. What else can really be said? It has been flawless. Absolutely flawless. A mind-blowing, show-stopping performance. I don't think anyone in their right mind today came onto this stream, came into this race, entered this paddock expecting for a privateer to dominate this round. But such is the case. We don't go to Barcelona a lot. It is a rare track by any stretch of the imagination. Like Indianapolis, it provides these surprisingly good races every time it's featured. Whether that's through drama, whether that's through good racing, and we've had our fair share here in round 3 of the championship, that much can be said. So heading down into the final sector here with David Urban and Jörg Masserat doing battle from behind here for 7th position. Urban and Masserat going to take this all the way to the line, but our focal point is firmly set on who has been the star of the show, the Tempest Motorsports number 30 of Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos, as they head down through the RACC chicane, have been exemplary all race long here, heading out through the RACC. Things boiling over between Urban and Maserat. But the talk of the day is the winners right before you as we hit the checkered flag. Winners in round 3. Tempest Motorsports, Adam Saunders and Brendan Roos. The number 30 has took the entire competition by storm. Welcome to the front row. Unbelievable stuff today from these two. You wouldn't have expected an angle like this. A singular entry team taking the Goliaths of this series by storm. So as we check around the paddock as well, Parker Sukup crossing the line, a valiant drive with Exclusive Esports. David Sylph will extend the championship lead over the 788 and the 787 of Exclusive, putting him and teammates Marcus Carlos and Craig Twarlock further up the order with MSA. Nat Bennett on his inaugural drive here is going to come home to a top 5 and a fastest lap. His drive alongside Elmas Mikkelsen's has been second to none today. It is enough to keep them close in the fight. We'll be seeing the next chapter of that in Spa. Louis Baptiste has given it everything he could today, alongside teammates Milo Bergman and Andre Damrat. But unlike the disaster that was the end of Suzuka, it's going to be joy to be in the top 5 today for the number 5 as they get down towards the line. What a race it has been. What else can be said? Zambi driver in 6th, David Urban down to 7th, but Jörg Maserat still in 8th, Jack Giles 9th, Hayden Puttock in 10th with Ian Skeen. It's been a brilliant drive from those two as well to finish inside the top 10. Kelvin Castens 11th, Niels Baslier in 12th, Levi Warner 13th, Martin Van Manen in 14th, but they're actually taking it all the way to the line here. Could it be a final change of position? Van Manen v Warner down to the line. It's going to be very, very close here, but only just in the favour of Warner. Van Manen in a very close 13th position ahead of Urban and Vermaak. Urban there now relegated down to 14th, so a free position for Maserat, Giles, Puttock, Castens, Baslier and Warner and Van Manen. Vermaak in 15th, Bass PW in 16th, Woodgate in 17th, Scott Milbank in 18th, Nick Mashk in 19th, David Beam in 20th, Patrick Leger in 21st and Kieran Rodd in 22nd, down by 4 laps. But what an end to this race it has been today. We can see the finishing order there running down. We did have a few DNFs. Benjamin Huppert and Matteo Mastromaro out of the race with 44 laps left to go. You can see the same story, Martin Pesti, so it seems as well. Giovanni Badiali and Andrea Casciotti, sadly, out of this race as well. They were on for what looked to be a very good time here in Barcelona. That was sadly cut short for them. You can see Scott Milbank celebrating what has been the small victories necessary. They've been working against the odds since the race start, and they'll be happy to be inside that top 20. The real either of them today. Never mind, you can't win them all, but these two definitely did today. And so, I think for us then, that is the end of the line for round 3. It has been a brilliant, brilliant race to cover today. Of course, we do want to thank our sponsors as well, that being Track Titan and Maloir Transport Incorporated. You can reach them at www.maloir-transport.ca if you're looking for freight and logistics operations brokerage in Canada. From us here on TRTN, though, that is effectively the end of the line. That is the checkered flag, and it has been a brilliant race today. I'm sure it has been just as fun for the drivers as it has been for us to cover what has been a fantastic chapter of this championship. Well done then today to Adam Saunders and Brandon Roos in the number 30